YouTube. It's been a while. We have a lot to do, and today is going to be no exception. We are going to unbox this item from our buddies at Buddy RC. Amazing! What is it? I don't know. Comes from Buddy RC, and it's definitely not as big as some other boxes we've opened in the past. So let's see what's in here. So special thanks to Buddy for getting this sent out. And we did see Buddy at Joe and All. That was super exciting. Oh, what do we have here? We've got some foam, we've got some packaging, we've got a little invoice thingy. Let's put this stuff off to the side. We'll just take that out for now and lay that to the side. It's the M4 Amazing from OMP Hobby. I like to call them OMP Hobby for short. Yes, beautiful. Ours is evidently in racing yellow. Oh, so they have different colors. And these are kits, as I understand. So, definitely not a ready-to-fly heli. And so Spectrum sent us the FC6250HX. This comes with the SRXL2 equipped 4651T. That's a telemetry receiver. Yes, you can get that same one without telemetry separately if you want, but you need the telemetry to do the forward programming, so you do need the telemetry equipped. You can buy them separate, but I would just suggest getting this. I think it's a little cheaper that way. Now, you can also use 2 receivers with this, but we're gonna be using just the one that comes in this kit. This isn't a huge helicopter, but if you did something really big, you might wanna do that, okay? All right, cool. So without further ado, we're gonna get into this. Now, this box is smaller than some other helis we've done, but that's because it's packed tight. Okay, so really excited to see it. The red looks pretty sweet on the front. I hope the yellow looks as good. Okay, so opening it up, oh man, look at that motor. That is so dang huge. Look at that, that's awesome. That's crazy. Okay, so got this box, which has evidently lots of things, and then this box, which has lots of other things. Oops, excuse me, pairs of boxes. Okay, so the motor, swash plate, ESC, and boom, adapters and things. Okay, so we'll see what happens here. And then taped to the very bottom, there's also this carbon fiber spar rod or whatever it is. Actually, don't know for sure what it is. And I have not built a heli in forever. Forever.
Yeah.
That's hollow.
It's been a while.
Definitely carbon fiber. You got the twang, and there's just a little piece of loose cardboard in there and a couple pieces of tape. So we're just gonna throw this behind us in the backdrop in case we need to look at pictures. So this is gonna be a little bit of a stretch for me, guys. It's the first time we have used this type of flight controller, okay? Now it's come, I believe this one's the one that's in the 330S, if I'm not mistaken. But in the 330S, it's in a bind and fly. So we have to set this up. We watched through the Spectrum's videos. Tom did a really nice job on that. And so I'm just hoping that we have enough with that to get done. However, I do not have a digital pitch sensor, so we're gonna have to wing it on that, pun intended. All right, and then what's in this box? This must be the boom, okay? Well, the boom came out. So omphobby.com, pretty cool. Check out the links in our video description below. You can buy one for yourself. That is hollow, and it is metal, aluminum, okay? And then these are the rotors. I don't know if I have to open it or just slip them out. Yeah, just slip them out. Okay, sweet. The ultimate 385, okay? So, beautiful. Okay, blade that you can rely. You can rely, okay? Let's see how this goes, guys. So being that we are not aficionados in 3D flight performance, we actually talked to Buddy before this, and I said, you know, I am not a 3D pilot. I wish I was, but I'm not. And so that is the understanding we have. Beautiful carbon fiber blades. Look at that.
Like sparkly.
That's so cool. Yeah, sparkly paint. That's gonna look, oh, that is so sweet.
That's really cool.
I have no idea what that's gonna look like spinning, but I'm sure it's gonna be amazing.
Those are.
They look expensive. I'm getting nervous. I'm gonna end up breaking something. So guys, just gonna say, this is gonna be one of the most high performance helis we've done to date. And so we are really excited to be doing it for you, and also honored because, like I said, I don't fancy myself an amazing helicopter pilot, but I do know how to fly. I'm just not that good at it. And so for you, if you're sitting at home thinking, yeah, I'm a terrible pilot too, but I can get in the air, well, maybe this video will help you understand that you can do it, or maybe not. But we're gonna find out. All right, so let's open the canopy. Now remember, ours is supposed to be yellow. Oh boy, there's a lot of pieces in there. Okay, so 3D Performance. Holy shnikes. Okay, so here it is. So the M4. Okay, so let's pop this thing out and just see how beautiful it is. Feels like it's sealed in there. Yeah, it is sealed in there. So these are available right now. So if you order them from the website and you buy from our links, or if you follow our links, buy from these guys, you'll be helping to support Brian Phillips RC and our efforts to help encourage people to get into the hobby, get back into the hobby, and all of the different directions that we encourage people. That is sweet looking. And it looks really high quality, big, huge grommets here. Look at that. They feel firm, but still enough suppleness to get onto the frame easy. That's flipping all over the place. Came with some different stickers, and then the tail protector, or not tail protector, but the boom holder. We'll just lay that aside. In fact, we'll just kind of lay things over here as we go. We've got the battery support straps and some ends and some pieces. Okay, we got the tail feathers here, if you want to call that tail feathers. Holy cow, there are a lot of parts. Holy cow, there's a lot of parts.
I'm hoping they're all labeled differently.
Yeah, they are. Okay, so if you could just read this for me here, camera crew, that'd be great. If you could just read that part somewhere right there. Ready? Go ahead.
Lots of little pieces.
Okay. Looks like the tail part. There's the belt. Okay. All right, so what do we have here? More supports. Feels like aluminum, so it must be in the main body there. Then we've got, looks like the main gear, drive gear, and then there's carbon fiber supports that go through it on the top and bottom. Some more really ridiculously small pieces, and some more small pieces.
There's like one big piece in there.
Wow. Hey, finally a big piece. Okay.
I know what that is.
So there's a lot of pieces here, guys. A lot of pieces. So we were just concerned about how long it was going to take to set up the radio, and now I'm starting to kind of think, holy crap, what have we gotten ourselves into?
The radio seems easy.
Okay, so for those of you that haven't watched a lot of Brian Phillips RC videos yet, we tend to do a lot of bind and fly aircraft, which means that you get the radio, you assemble a, plane might be 7 or 8 pieces, put it together, and then you put a battery in it and you go fly it. And so in this case, we're gonna have a little bit ahead of us.
Not that.
I'm noticing a marked miss.
Yeah.
Do you wanna know what the missing part is?
Yeah.
The manual.
The instructions.
But we did get a manual sent on an email, so we have to go look that up. The instructions to assemble this are gonna hopefully make this really clear for me. Otherwise, we're gonna be in big troubles, and there will be lots of little pieces flying through the air in not a controlled fashion. So we're gonna make sure we get this right, and we're gonna be right back. All right, so we have all the stuff spread out. We've got some Loctite, we've got a little bit of CA and some kicker. I don't know if the kicker is necessary yet. They do suggest using a slightly different formula of Loctite than I'm using. They're looking for Loctite 243 for screws and 648 for bearing seats. I do not know what I'm gonna do for my bearing seats. I don't keep that kind of Loctite on hand. So beyond that, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna show part of the assembly, and then we'll probably time lapse the vast majority of this, because there are gonna be some critical steps. But to be honest with you, building this model is gonna be a step-by-step process, and you have to work through the steps, and you have to look at instructions like on page 6, where it shows you have to have 115-degree neutral position on the tail servo, okay? And if you look at these instructions, they're detailed and they seem to be pretty good instructions, but you know, when we run into problems, I guess we'll have to look into a little bit more. This is the tail servo. You can see because it's got a T on it, and then the other 3 are the same. They have the same model number except for C. So beautiful, all metal bodies, look like Metal Gear servos. I have to assume they're Metal Gear servos. And we unpacked everything, of course, like all this stuff is super high quality, machined aluminum and steel, stainless steel. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Everything is really well put together that is pre-assembled here for the tail here, okay? And then the ESC with built-in S-back, which is either 6, 7.4, or 8.4 volts at 10 amps. That is a big S-back, okay? It comes with a flush mount XT60, so that's gonna be a little bit annoying because I'm gonna probably end up using an IC3 adapter or an IC3 battery. Now you'll be able to get in there. I'm not sure how it's gonna stand up to the pressure. And then they've got this XT60 style plug for the motor lead, which is nice because it's basically done and you don't have to worry about flipping things over. And then just a real close look at the motor. Look at all those windings. It's absolutely beautiful. And then over here, you can see the size. 8108. So 81 millimeters by 8 millimeters. That's crazy. 205 kV. Beautiful. So if you look at all the components of this build, it's a very, very high quality build, but it's just gonna be a lot of steps, okay? So if you're getting this model and you're a beginner, just don't. It's not a good idea. It's gonna be complicated and it's gonna challenge your ability to make this thing a success. Even though with our flight controller that we've got, we should be able to activate safe, which will auto level the aircraft when we let go of the sticks. It's still not gonna be a beginner aircraft no matter how you slice it. So that being said, this is a super capable aircraft and it's also one of the biggest helis that we've done to date. It's not, I don't know how much bigger it is than the 330S, but it's really close to that same size class. And that is one thing you might be asking. It's actually 850 millimeters on the rotor size and then 786 millimeters from nose to tail, okay? And 128 millimeters wide, but nobody uses that measurement. So if you look at this, you can just kind of see what the specs are right there. So guys, without further ado, we're gonna dig into this build. We're probably gonna go over to time lapse just because there's so many steps. It's gonna take us like a 10-hour video just to put this together. And if it's 10 hours on video, that means it's like 20 or 30 hours for us to film it. We just can't afford that kind of time on any project. So if we run into something weird, we'll stop the time lapse and evaluate a little bit, or we'll just give you some close-ups once in a while. So stay tuned. All right, so we have the build done. That was more involved than we thought, but it's also kind of one of our first times putting together one of these bigger helicopters. We did have to wait on a special part because we didn't have one, and so we ordered this. We'll link to it. If you guys want to buy it from our Amazon link, you'll help support us. This is a pitch gauge. You do kind of need a pitch gauge. I don't exactly know how you would set up your transmitter system if you didn't buy one, so we're just going to set this up right now. This is basically brand new. It's like 15, 20 bucks, somewhere in there. Okay, so it's a digital pitch gauge. Ours has a little protective cover on it. This thing goes out and it grabs onto the blades. It's supposed to work up to, I can't remember what size. I think they said like 700 size. Okay, so there's batteries going there 2 deep. Looks like there's a button top up. So of course that is somewhat ambiguous. Leave it to the Chinese to be ambiguous. Speaking of ambiguity, well, yeah, that is really tough to tell what direction it's supposed to be. I assume it's like this. Oh, it says plus up, okay. So there's a picture of a plus. I thought that was a button, okay. So it does come with 2 of these batteries. In our case, these are CR2032s. So pretty popular watch type battery. Okay, so that goes in there. And then this turns on or off. It's got a small backlight on it. And then it will measure the pitch as such. And you can zero it, okay? So if you're in an off level condition, then you can actually zero it to the surface that you're working with. Then of course you can grab onto the blade. Not sure why that shut off, but it must time out pretty quick. So I'm gonna just turn it off. Anyway, so that's how that works. We will link to this fixture. This does not come with the Heli. We were waiting on it, so we kind of got delayed. We kind of got this build done and we realized, oh yeah, we need to probably have a pitch gauge. I thought we could do it by other means, but it just didn't turn out that way. So might want to think about something like this. We'll put it in the video description. Also, we've already talked about this flight controller, the FC6250HX, which comes with a 4651T, which is the actual receiver, the serial telemetry equipped receiver. So that's gonna be what we're using here. Now you can use a second receiver with that if you decide to do that. And then I had to wait for specs on the servos because we didn't get any specs on the servos. So we actually got this fancy dance from the guys at OMP. So they were super helpful. So it looks like this is the, I think this is the tail one. So the max frequency is 560 Hertz and the max frequency is 333 Hertz. So you can set the tail and the cyclic to 333, or the tail max is 560. So, but 333 and 560, okay? You do need to know that for this, and that's part of the reason why we were waiting, was actually we ended up getting both of these things at the same time, you know, about the same time. So we'll be using those tools, and then obviously, because I am inexperienced with this, we'll eventually be taking the blades off or unplugging the ESC. So we've just been enjoying this thing for the last couple of days, looking at how beautiful it is, but we have not been doing much of anything with it. So we're gonna get right into it today. Obviously the NX10, this is gonna be our radio of choice for this one. That's gonna give us plenty of channels to do what we need to do. And then we also figured out some battery choices because, as you know, I mentioned we don't have the exact battery that you could get. You can order one from OMP. We'll make sure to link to that. So if you order this M4 through our links, you can get the 2600 6S 45C pack. I'm gonna try with one of these solutions, okay? This is only 30C. It is a 3200 milliamp 6S, okay? We have, of course, the adapter that takes us from XT60 because we're coming out with an, this is an IC5, okay? So that's one option. We also have these 2 packs from Arrows, which of course are almost right, but they're still, again, a little bit larger than they're supposed to be. And they're 35C versus 40, but they at least have the XT60 on the end. And then of course I was like, oh crap, I guess I do have 3S packs also from Spectrum that are 30C 2200. So I could use those in series with this series adapter. And then of course I'm gonna be going from IC3 to IC3. So we have to go back out to XT60. So that doesn't work great, but we do have that as an option. And then really our best and final option is the only thing that's in spec is 100C, 1300 milliamp Hacker batteries. Now you do get these in a pair, so we'll link to that as well. And then of course we would be using a parallel adapter. And yes, this is kind of a goofy apparatus, so we might actually build something else that's gonna be a little bit cleaner so that we can use that. But since we have all the adapters, we're just gonna go with what we got. Okay, and then this manual here is actually for the flight controller part, which is the FC 6250HX, helicopter fly barless system, okay? So you can see they kind of show you how this works. And then it shows throttle, servo A, servo B, servo C, tail rotor servo, and then aux1 or additional power. Okay, so remember this is redundant. The RX2, RX1, this is RX2. So RX2 is here and RX2 is also here. So if you were installing this micro receiver, and rather than having a SRXL2 plug to SRXL2 plug, which would allow you to then plug in here, okay? That's actually an old satellite receiver plug. So you'd have a 4-pin that goes into this, and then you'd have a 3-pin that goes into that. They provide for this type of plug, okay? Now they also give you this, what would be technically a male-to-male connector to plug into this female connector, and that allows you to do software and firmware updates on the actual receiver itself. Of course, this is the receiver, the 4651T, and we have the bind button here, 2 antennas, and then of course you can see on the back some more information. And then up here we have the actual flight controller. Okay, so you have XBus, aux, RX2, which is the same in this case as RX2 up here, program and bind. Okay, so if you have to bind this separate, I don't believe you bind this separate, and I always love what it looks with the clear plastic cover off of there. And then this has a metal back half of the case, which is pretty sweet. Of course, that's going to fit nicely here. This can be mounted in a variety of configurations. They actually give you 2 of these in case you're going on like a nitro heli. In our case, this is just an electric heli, so we're just going to use the 1 pad. But if you have to do a side mount, they give you this nice little pack, this piece you can knock out, and then you can pass your wires through, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you can mount that whatever orientation you want. I would like to have my wires up front, but then I feel like I'm so vulnerable getting so close to the motor. So it's probably gonna end up being like this, and it's gonna be like that, okay? And then this is a carbon fiber fuselage largely. So I don't think we're gonna really have any problems because we're just gonna have the antennas coming out the back. It would be nice to have them in some sort of a diversity configuration so you have like a 90-degree difference between one side and the other. But I don't know how critical that is. All I know is I don't want to block, I don't want the heli to be between me and the transmitter's antennas, you know, because you could potentially interrupt the signal. So that's part of the reason why sometimes people will use an additional satellite receiver so that you can have it on one side versus the other. Now, I do believe that this is just plastic or polymer, okay? Because this, of course, is the strap is carbon fiber, but this is just plastic, I believe. So it might be a good place to route to actually have the, you know, receiver somewhere around here and then have the antennas chase down and land on the legs. So I might do a little bit more research on that before I actually commit to that sort of a principle. But then also this linkage rod needs to be able to move in and out, but it's not going to spin. The moving part, of course, the belt goes through the boom. So just think through all these things. It's not going to be probably near as bad as I'm making it sound. And then also if you use a smart ESC, this is the other configuration. So you can see configuration 1, configuration 2. Okay, so the smart ESC takes the position of the, here, I'm gonna try to get that oriented right. It's gonna go right there on the first set of pins, okay? And then servo A actually takes that first position, which is weird. So just remember, if you're using an avian ESC, then you're gonna be doing things a little bit different, okay? And that's to facilitate the serial communication between all those devices, okay? So what we're gonna do first is I'm actually just gonna go ahead and commit to a spot and plug this into that position. Also, I wanna go ahead and get this plugged in because there's no sense in waiting. All right, so if this is your first time following along on Brian Phillips RC, don't be concerned. We aren't usually near as clueless as we are on this one. It's one of our first times doing this. And so for that reason, I am especially concerned that I'm gonna get something wrong, so I'm being super careful. There's also this little knockout might actually work good for this. Or I can take some scissors and cut this down. Not sure which way I wanna do that yet. Okay, so we've got the double-sided sticky tape, and this is super, super, super sticky stuff. So be careful that you get it straight the first time. There is a little bit of an overlap, I noticed. And there it is, okay. All right, so we've got that on there, and I'm just gonna give it a good press and make sure that it's on there. You get a little bit of dampening from this 3M tape. So that should help a little bit with vibration that you may experience on the Heli. Because this thing, of course, is going to be spatially aware. This is, of course, the flight controller. And then we won't need that cable right offhand, so we'll just kind of move that stuff out of the way for now. So if you guys haven't decided where you want to put yours, there's usually a flat tray here. You want to make sure that that tray is level with the main rotor. Okay. And so we're not going to be going into the serial ports, the secondary ports. I want to try to get this as far up here as possible because that's going to give us the best. Ah, dang it, it dropped prematurely. Come on now. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this stuck down in here so that it drops all the way into that opening there because there's no sense in wasting the space, in my opinion. It's not because I'm trying to get closer to the center of gravity or anything like that. I just want it to be out of the way and most protected as possible. Okay, so just trying to go really good alignment here. So we have very even gaps, just looking at every little gap that I can see and being super careful to get it squared up, okay? So then we have, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 1, okay? And I numbered my servos at the beginning when I was kind of putting them together. So this is number 1, number 3, and number 2. Now, I've seen a number of different videos where people call them out like the passenger side, the driver's side, and you know, then the tail side or the back seat. And I don't know exactly how A, B, and C line up, but I know that at some point during the forward programming, we're gonna actually see that. So it might be a good time for us to scroll through here and see if we can figure that out. Okay, so we were looking for the A, B, and C positions on the servos, and I just don't know where they are. It doesn't really matter yet though, because at this point, we're not sub-trimming or doing any of that at all. So we're probably gonna rely more on the XPC battery checker in a few minutes to try to get everything square and flat and true, and then pitch to 0. So at this point, I'm just trying to figure out how the heck I can feed the wires. And so far I've got this plugged in and just routed through so that it's in a neat configuration. And I'd love to put it sideways, but I don't have enough antenna then to get out the back. And since this is carbon fiber structure, largely, this is actually aluminum, I believe this tube is, so that hypothetically the signal should pass through. I still don't want to tempt fate. So this is the best I can come up with right now. It's kind of lame. I don't want to block access to the labels on my on the flight controller, because if I do that, it's going to be hard for you to remember what the heck it is, because I'm not a normal heli guy. So if I slide a little extra in there, I can show you what I was thinking about. Then you guys will understand kind of what I'm talking about. You have to be careful about chafing your wires here too. That's very sharp on the edges. So if I went something like this, then make sure you at least keep your your numbers exposed so you can see where you're plugging stuff in. And then I was thinking that would give me the maximum length on the antennas. But I'm like, okay, well, what if I just kind of split the difference and went like this? I want to have enough to be able to get that plug undone in a pinch. It's not going to be convenient, but I can do it. And I also want to stay away from where the motor is going to be spinning. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan on pulling this back out. You're going to have to come to the other side so they can see. I'm going to have to pull this slack back out, as you can see right there. I'm going to have to pull this slack back out so that the motor doesn't get hit. And if you look right under there, that's right where the motor was going to be. So I'm going to take some other 3M tape and just get this done. We've been debating about it off camera for some time. And sometimes with these projects, I tend to overthink things like really badly. And this is definitely no exception. Yeah, I think I actually was better the other way. There we go. So I've got that mounted on there, and we're just going to pull off the backing. This is 3M tape. This one's not going to be spatially aware, so it doesn't really care. There may be some spatial awareness, but it's not going to be reflective of the AS3X that I know of. If it is, I apologize, and I will stand corrected the first time I hear about it. But I believe this is spatially aware and this is unaware. It is going to have telemetry capability, but it collects the telemetry data from another device, another apparatus, in this case, the flight controller. Okay, so now we've got that here, and now I just have to pull this slack back and be super duper careful, because if you look where these forceps are going, look where this is. Shoot over my left shoulder into this opening, and you'll be able to see. You see where the forceps are, guys? That's the edge of the motor. Very hard to see, and that's right where that wire wants to eventually relax. And so you have to be thinking about, like, okay, well, let's think about now where it is, plus vibration, plus time, plus lack of maintenance, and where's it gonna end up? It's gonna end up right on top of the edge of the motor. And if you cut that, that is a complete failure. You are crashing. You are potentially causing a dangerous condition. So you have to really seriously take this stuff serious. When you're dealing with the bigger helis, as you get bigger, it's gonna be more and more potential risk. So obviously I'll be taking these blades off since I'm not well versed in the heli world on how things are gonna start. Or actually I'll probably just unplug the power to the actual battery in hopes that I can use that to establish a safe condition. And that's gonna be after a bit here still yet. Okay, so we're just getting some things trimmed, and then this existing one that I had done earlier can get clipped off and discarded. So all the cable management on this is probably, like, for a lot of you heli guys, is super easy stuff. You're used to doing it, and it's really kind of no-brainer stuff. And so my apologies for anybody who finds this extremely boring. You got to remember, we're kind of noobs at this, and so we appreciate it if you guys are easy on us, because we are new with this stuff, and we don't claim to be something we're not here. We're not trying to pretend to be some sort of big experts on a lot of this stuff here when it comes to the heli stuff. We just don't know. So I'm going to unplug the heli plug, or excuse me, the plug for the receiver. We're just going to double this back, and we're going to put the slack back up next to the receiver. And I'd like to not have that trap there, but I want things neat on this heli. I do not want things looking like crap. How do I know the signal's on the top pin? Just from experience with other devices, and also it's labeled here. It says signal, then plus, then minus. Signal, then plus, then minus, okay? All right, trying to figure a way to get my zip tie through here one last time. And once we get this through, then we should be able to kind of get this all where it needs to be. And I don't know if the camera crew is using her flash or not, but the flash might be helpful at times here, I'm wondering, with this black carbon fiber. It just kind of absorbs everything for light. Is that helpful? Or is not really?
It's just gonna wear my battery out faster.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're gonna just zip tie this black on black on black here. Hopefully you can see what we're doing. And all I'm trying to do is just get everything tucked in so it has a home position, and we don't have to worry about it straying off too far. And keep in mind, these edges on this carbon fiber, they're actually very sharp. So you want to be careful just how tight you tighten everything, because if you force those wires into the edge of the carbon fiber, it is, after all, carbon embedded in fiber. And so what's going to happen is you're going to actually have a potential to short circuit through that. Okay. So we have now the 3 servos for the cyclic. And then of course over here we have the tail servo, and we have the electronic speed control. And then this is the programming cable or the reverse cable or whatever that is. So we're not going to worry about that one. All right, so that gets us one step closer. We have the receiver mounted. We'll be able to bind here in a minute. In fact, I might go ahead and just start the process of trying to bind now. I'm not sure if I can do this with my zip tie as it's located right now. I may try to throw a second zip tie back here just so I can get a little bit more slack, and then I can cut the one that's closer. It's always easier to put the second one on and then cut the old one off, at least in my experience. Just try to do this, and then each time I do that, I make sure that I'm not creating some sort of a danger, because like this will get hotter than other parts of the helicopter, and so I want to make sure that it's not bridging and then gonna melt or catch on fire. Again, it just depends on how you fly these things. The heavy 3D flyer is probably not going to, they're probably gonna push the limits of all this stuff. I'm not gonna push the limits of this heli. I'm gonna be like barely breaking the surface with it. Okay, so just walking this off. This is not going to be very fun to unplug, but it's going to be manageable. And I've also noticed an interesting phenomenon with this thing, that my tail boom is always in the wrong spot. And so every time I go to swing this thing, I knock everything off the counter, which is super annoying. So what I want to do now is, oh, and then the other thing is, we were talking off camera about how we're going to manage these antennas. The antennas are going to go down here, so that they're kind of on the outboard portion. And I was thinking of getting, you know, like a little, you know, like if you have a soap dispenser and you pump it, there's a little take-up straw in there. I was thinking of something like that, that I could just zip tie onto this frame, and that would force the antenna on the outside portion of the carbon fiber, so it acts as a reflector to capture more signal. Now, the other thing is, once the body is on, I just want to point this out, this is still going to be basically opened here. And so you could also mount them here, and then when you pull this off, you just want to make sure they slip out on their own power so you don't rip the antennas off. But I don't know the best way, and I don't want, under negative load, I don't want this to get sucked up into the prop. That would be potentially devastating to our signal. Not as bad as this just completely coming off and getting disconnected or whatever, but pretty bad. Okay, and it is a diversity antenna, so you're going to have, you know, some level of redundancy, but it's just the one. Okay, so coming back to this, sorry, I was just thinking about that as I was repositioning everything. I do not know how I'm going to get this undone without undoing that. Camera crew, do you have any ideas?
I know you said it was tricky when you plugged it in the first time.
Well, and you can see that it's like not easy to undo.
No.
And I've got a death grip. Okay, I did get it finally. Okay, so we're just gonna keep that apart.
Okay.
So that should make this thing, it's rendered basically neutered right now. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the thing starting and like chopping my head off or cutting my face or anything bad like that. So the next move I wanna do is, I'm sort of torn. Do I wanna bind, or do I wanna start plugging in wires? I think I kinda wanna start plugging in wires.
Okay.
So if we look at this little manual again, this manual tells us about hooking up. So the tail rotor, so ours is a standard throttle, so it's gonna go into port 1, okay? So I am currently into the RX2, which is where this is gonna go. Now I need throttle to reach over, and I think it's gonna reach over or under. I don't know which way I'm gonna go yet. The black needs to go down, so I gotta make a nice little bend, and that's a 4-wire configuration there, so trying to do it in such a way that it looks neat when I'm done. Yeah, that's not gonna look neat, is it? I have to separate that a little bit so that doesn't get sucked up in the prop. Probably just tuck it in along the side of the receiver like that. Okay, and then this is the tail. So the tail rotor servo is gonna go into port 5, okay? So port 5, of course, and then we can put brown is down. So I'm gonna try to slide this under, and then I can pull it out. like this. If you guys aren't a fan of seeing the cable management, my apologies. I know it's kind of tedious stuff and it's not always the most exciting, but this is some of the stuff that people need help with, so we try to share it. And I know for some of you Heli experts, you're gonna wanna just skip over some of these steps. That's totally fine. We get it. You're not gonna hurt our feelings. So if you have to skip past because you just can't tolerate it, we get it, guys. We are with you. If I'm watching this after I've done 100 of them, I'm probably gonna be like, geez, Brian, hurry up. But just remember, everybody starts somewhere, and I am everyone. I am one of those people. All right. Should have probably started with this one, I wonder. Okay, so pin 5, is that pin 5? Kind of a little bit hard to tell for sure.
Yep, there's one set of pins after that then for 6.
Okay, great. Okay, so I don't like that flopping free, but it is what it is at this point. And honestly, I think we're gonna look okay with our wires.
If you undo that zip tie there,
I could flip it.
Flip that?
Yeah. I hate to do it, but I gotta do it.
I know, but.
And yes, I can fold these props, but it just, or the rotor, but it just looks so freaking cool. I can't bring myself to do it. I've had them folded on and off a couple of times while we've been preparing dinner and meals and things like that, because it sits over there by our oven. And it just breaks my heart to have to fold them because it's so dang beautiful. And it's also the biggest helicopter we've ever had. I mean, well, is it the biggest helicopter? I think it's darn near the biggest if it's not the biggest. I think it's the biggest.
I think it's the biggest.
I'm like about 99% certain it is.
Yep.
You know what? In cutting that allows me to flip this the other way too, hon. So good call.
Okay. I'm just gonna kind of stand over you a little bit out of the way of the blades.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to rotate this like that and see if I can just kind of get these in. It's phenomenally tight. In some of these areas on these Helis, it's very tight. There's a second tie point right here, just so you guys can see, right there. Okay. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to decide, do I want to double this back? I think I'm going to double this back and tie it with the bundle. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And so for those of you that are new to Brian Phillips RC, what do we do on this channel? We try to help prevent one and dones, which is people that get the wrong airplane or aircraft to start with. They can't get the help they need and they make a lot of mistakes like everybody does. But without the help, their mistakes become very expensive consequences and then they quit the hobby, and that's what we call a one and done. We also are here to try to help people get back into the hobby. People that are maybe, recent retirees, don't have kids, taking so much of their free time at sports events and things like that. They moved out, going to college, whatever it is. Or recently divorced, have free time and money all of a sudden, that sort of thing. Whatever it is that's gotten you back into the hobby. Quit a job, move to a different job, just need something to do. Whatever it is that got you back in the hobby, we're glad you're here with us. But we want to help serve you guys and get you guys some good information to try to help get you started back at one of the most amazing hobby experiences you can have, which is, of course, in my case, I would say probably fixed wing RC, but in this case, this is Heli RC stuff. So helicopters, of course, would be a close second for us. We love doing anything that flies, but just really, really enjoy the aspects of this hobby, all the aspects of this hobby, and just get a lot of fun out of it. So we hope that you guys will be here with us to help us get better and grow along with us. So if you've never been part of this community yet, welcome. And we hope that you'll be here to stay, or at least for a while until you get your feet under you, and then you can, venture out into the World Wide Web, all the dark, deep areas of the World Wide Web where people sell dynams. But yes, the other big thing we do is we do a lot of reviews of new stuff. We do reviews of things that we think are going to be amazing and then find out if they're actually amazing. And we've been let down a few times, but generally speaking, we work with manufacturers that are going to let us tell the truth, and the manufacturers that let us tell the truth are usually the ones that are selling decent quality stuff. And if we find out it's not decent quality, a lot of them stop selling the things that we were reviewing. So it's a win-win for everybody involved, especially you, the audience, because that's who we answer to, and not to these manufacturers that we do happen to work with a little bit. We have loose relationships with them, and the reason we do is because when you guys buy from the links, it helps to fund our channel, and that is the best thing you can do to help support Brian Phillips RC beyond watching the videos, subscribing, liking, all those good things that you normally do. But at the end of the day, the best thing you can do financially to help us, even beyond Patreon support and things of that nature, would be to literally just buy the amazing products that we review, because that helps us to bolster support from the different companies we work with, and it helps us to make a few bucks here and there, which basically funds our entire channel and experience. There's a little bit of ad revenue that comes with that too, but the ad revenue is minuscule, so usually can't really depend on Google much for that sort of stuff. I am thinking I'm gonna try this, and this might work, this might not. I'm not sure if I like that route. What do you think, camera crew?
I don't know if I liked the little
Pass through?
pass through you did.
Yeah, I kind of was hoping it would go on the outside of the yellow, but it didn't quite make it there. Oh yeah, there it is. That's a little bit better. And see, the thing is, what I was thinking is if I play my cards right, I can get the diversity action by leaving this one here, because now that can't get sucked up into the prop.
Oh, okay.
Into the rotor, I should say. And even though I have to waste that, I don't really care about wasting that. So we'll just cut that one off, throw it out. Then we'll come back over to the other side. So we've got the tail rotor and the throttle plugged in. Now, of course, the throttle is plugged in, but we don't have any output to the main motor, which also powers this. Okay, so we should be totally safe for the moment. And I could actually even plug in another motor if I wanted to simulate movement. But anyway, that's another story for another day. We'll get to that shortly. Okay, so let's see if we need to do this as well, or if we're gonna, we're probably just gonna have to bite the bullet and just guess and check. I think at some point we're gonna have to guess and check, don't you? I just don't know how else we're gonna do it. Because I don't know which one's which, and...
Well, I think when we have to choose this wash plate,
we can just switch them.
we'll know.
Well, no, I know, but what I'm saying is we can switch them.
Oh.
We can just switch whichever one's which, right? Because it's just 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 3
Yeah, it's not
things.
gonna hurt anything.
Okay.
I don't think it will. I don't know why it would.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, true. And honestly, guys, on Brian Phillips RC, we're not afraid of laughing at ourselves for having made stupid mistakes. But at the end of the day, we do strive to know what we're doing when we do things, even when we're new at it. I've done a bunch of research on this for about the last week and a half, and been talking to a lot of people that know what they're doing and trying to get some good input so I can share some helpful information along the way. Granted, that's going to be limited, and of course, you're used to hearing me know a little bit better about what we're doing. And so I feel a little bit like a fish out of water when it comes to dealing with this particular flight controller, because it's my first time dealing with it. But it probably won't be the last time, and so that's why it's worth the time investment for me. It's kind of like the one that we'll be using, I'm assuming, when we have helis that are not in a ready-to-fly configuration. So that's the reason why we're willing to spend the effort to learn it. Now, there are a million different choices, and we don't mean to pretend like this is the best, fastest, cheapest, anything like that, because it's actually not cheap. It's actually probably not the best, and we actually don't know. So that's one thing you'll find on Brian Phillips RC that we do a little bit different than the other reviewers. It's not like everybody's out there lying to you, but there are quite a few people that just BS constantly about the fastest, cheapest, lightest, funnest, newest, pilotiest, whatever it is. We don't do that here. We just try to show you what this product does. Because every product kind of has a strength, it's got its weaknesses, and we try to just show you what those things are, and then you can make a judgment if that's a big enough deal to dissuade you from buying or to close the deal. And you guys are big boys and girls, and you're intelligent, well-meaning people. You're not gonna just go out there and blow a bunch of cash on garbage, and that's what we're here to help you do. So we're gonna hopefully help you see that this is high quality, and if I can do it, believe me, you can do it, because you can copy whatever I did.
Well, and there was a time, like when forward programming came out, that we had to
We didn't know what it
figure out
was.
how to do that.
Yep, and we're gonna be doing forward programming on this. This is gonna be the first time we've done forward programming on a heli, so I'm a little nervous. I've been kind of dreading it because I just know the first time sometimes is a little bit challenging, but the truth is we're gonna get through it. We always have. And that's one thing about this hobby is you're always learning new things. You're always getting a little bit better at the sport, at the skills necessary to do it. And as you get more and more advanced in the hobby, you're gonna get into more different terminology, technology, and different skills and expertise that you didn't have before. So we're glad to help you do it because we're doing it with you. All right, so now take a look at this, folks. We've got everything tied up nicely. We don't have a bunch of dangling loose wires. I'm not like huge fan of how this is pooped out the end, but I was thinking about doing it over here and I'm glad I didn't because right there is the motor. And you can see where that outside, that stator is gonna be moving. And I would not want that spinning really fast to all my wires. I was 2 seconds away from having everything that direction. So very, very glad that I didn't do that. This was definitely the right call. And yes, this is gonna get redone, very likely, so I'm not gonna get too much more excited about it. I'm just gonna try to pass this antenna through if I can get it out of the way a little bit like that. And I would really, really like it if I could just force that one down. But I wanna keep it unexposed. I wanna keep it exposed like that, not unexposed. What am I trying to say, camera crew?
You want to keep it exposed.
I wanna keep it exposed,
yes,
yeah. So I'm just gonna do one more zip tie and it's just gonna hopefully I can get it to just kind of, I did that
right
cut
there
point
on
at the wrong spot.
corner.
I have to go the other way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that way I can get the zip tie over and the head of the zip tie out of the way. I call the little locking mechanism on the zip tie the head of the zip tie. I don't know if that's actually correct nomenclature or not. But that's what I call it. So I'm gonna
Oh yeah, that makes more sense that one.
So you're just thinking if I can tug that down, then that keeps the exposed portion, which is the active portion, well, at least a great deal of it, out from the carbon fiber. Okay. I don't feel like that's gonna hang on to it at all. I don't think that's gonna do any good at all.
Tighten it a couple more.
No, I mean, even if I could, I'm concerned I'll cut the dang antenna. Well, maybe I can. See, now it's pulled it over here. That's what I was trying to avoid, folks. Because I want to get that out and away from the carbon fiber. Sorry guys, again, probably overthinking this. That's one thing I do really good on this channel is overthinking things. But that's technically a diversity. It'd be better if it was like 90 degrees of each other. But my guess is we're gonna be plenty good there. And we're gonna get plenty of signal. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna call it settled for the moment. And we may have to revisit that after a bit. So our motor is unplugged. We should be allowed to go ahead and plug everything in. But we do need to level things. So we're gonna take a second, clean up, and come right back. All right, so I took this book, not this book, but the other book that goes for the receiver, and it ended up being a perfect shim to get my tail boom level, okay? Now, my understanding is this is supposed to be level so that we can level everything up and we can true it all up to one another, okay? So I was thinking to myself, if you were trying to level all the servos, you could use the XBC battery checker and one at a time you could center them. But guess what? Every time you move something on there, it's gonna wanna reposition itself. So I was thinking, okay, well maybe I can just activate the receiver and bind it and then indicate the receiver exactly, or excuse me, to indicate to the flight controller exactly what each of these servos act at under, the speed by which they act, the frequency. And so I was thinking once I did that, then I could actually have them all hold true. Now the objective, of course, is you've got this mechanism like this. It's like 3 points, right? In our case, it's 2 points up here and then 1 point in the back. This, of course, commands the pitch axis. And then this one, of course, and this one, they control the roll axis together. And then the combination therein produces some combination of the 3 controls. And then this will control the yaw axis, right? So once I have everything square, I already centered that servo at 115 degrees. So it's mounted like this and then the output's something like that. And it's right in the manual. You have to pretty much look at the manual to do that. Okay, we already did that. So that one's centered. I don't have to worry about that part. There is some mechanical adjustments we need to make to that at some point, but we're not quite there yet. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, how am I gonna make all these adjustments of these 3 turnbuckles so that I can in turn adjust all this mechanism so that I can in turn adjust all this? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to have a true reference. So the reference is true or not is gonna be this. Okay, so we are now level. Yes, I have a small one of these things, but I was just like, well, this is in the drawer, it'll work just fine. So you can see it's square, okay, or it's true. And I have just one of the 1300 6S's, so I'm gonna put it in here so I can get to the binding process. So I will recheck my level periodically because this is gonna definitely move. Okay, like I said. So once that's snapped in there, we have the motor unplugged. So my next thing is I have to actually make a model. So we're gonna pop open, we're gonna turn on our transmitter, click the back and cancel, and add new model. Okay, so we're gonna, instead of creating an acro, we're gonna actually click and then change that to Heli. And we're gonna create a Heli. We can actually move that back just a hair. So now mine has a lot of models in it, so it's gonna take a little bit longer than yours might take. Okay, so once this comes up, okay, so now we can go to model select, model type, model name. This is where we're gonna name it. So we'll take a second and type in M4 and come right back. All right, so it says M4 OMP Hobby Heli, okay. Swash type, okay, so my only thing I'm concerned about is I can't remember if they told us to change this in the forward programming or if we were supposed to not. Let's read the manual for a second and see what that says. Forward programming is exclusive setup programmed and tuned via the forward programming. Powerful. Okay, so it says, in your transmitter, create a new Heli set up as normal swash plate type. Normal, not 3 servos, okay? Because we have a flight controller involved here. Okay, so it says the FC6250 requires that default new model transmitter configuration, which we already did. Okay, fine, so we're fine with all that. And they're telling us to go straight into forward programming, which is a little bit crazy. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to set up throttle cut, switch H. That to me is very important. It's actually throttle hold. Digital switch setup, throttle curve. Okay, so we'll mess with that later. And then we have to go to bind. We're going to be ready to bind. Now this thing shouldn't jump to life. There's no reason that motor is going to move because we are disconnected. I'm just hoping that I can reach the battery plug. Now that I feel this, I'm thinking it's probably not going to reach. So of course I screwed the pooch there. We'll take a second and flip that around and come right back. Okay, so we're ready to bind this thing. And so I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. And in order to plug it in, I can't see, so I gotta look underneath. Okay, so it's plugged in. I wanna try to get this leveled up just in case there's some sort of a setting that gets stored. I don't think it's gonna matter yet, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I've learned my lesson from doing this enough times with airplanes that sometimes it does matter even when you don't think it should. See, now it's not gonna balance out, is it? It's not gonna balance back. I have to get a little more creative. I'm not gonna use this manual anyway. This is the useless one. Okay, so all I'm doing is just trying to get this thing leveled now so that it won't pop out on its own. And okay, so we're level there, and I don't think that matters yet, but we have a red flashing light, and I am going to probably move it out of level when I do this, but I'm going to press the bind button. Okay, so I press the bind button and nothing happens. Press and hold. Now it's in the bind mode, so I'm hitting bind. And we're supposed to be binding in 11 milliseconds. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click in here and I'm gonna go to, where is that? Bind, no. It's under system setup, disconnect RF. Frame rate. There we go. I am gonna go ahead and rebind if it'll let me. It won't let me probably without a power cycle. Okay, so let's power cycle it. Now, why are we rebinding? Because 22 milliseconds is not what's called out. Okay. Now, the only way I know to do this so that it'll allow me to get into bind without automatically connecting is to shut off the transmitter, because then I'm going to press and hold the button while we're doing it, okay? So this is going to turn on. It's not going to be ready to rock. It's going to be fine. We're going to try to get this thing re-leveled just in case it learns its level position. At this point, I don't think it does. Okay, so I'm going to press this button long enough for it to come alive, pressing and holding the I button this time. And this should force it to bind at 11 milliseconds. Okay. I didn't even think about that step because I'm so used to 22 milliseconds in the airplane realm. Okay, so auto configuration. All right, great. Now, you'll notice nothing is live. That's normal. Throttle hold is on, or throttle cut is on. I'm in normal, flight mode 1, flight mode 2. And then throttle cut is set to switch H, but I don't think it's normally called throttle cut. It's called throttle hold. So I'm gonna go into forward programming. And I think it's under setup and then swash plate. AFR, nope, we don't want that. This is where I'm gonna navigate. Oh, there we go, okay, so gain is set to gear. Flight mode channel is gonna be set to do you have to scroll it in? Okay, so I want to go over here to monitor mode. Oh, that's not changing aux 2. Gears up here. Aux 2's over there. So what am I controlling there? That's not gear. That's gain. That's aux 2. Yeah, I'm not sure where that would normally be. So we're gonna go back into forward programming. We're gonna grab the manual back out. Okay, in the transmitter menu, forward programming, transmitter connects to the flight controller. All right, so navigate to setup swash plate output. Swash plate. What? Setup, then swash plate. Output setup, there we go. Ha ha ha, here's where we have to set it. It's a blank. Okay, so this, I have it sitting on that paper over there, but I think I remember. Okay, set up the frame rate to the operating frequencies. Well, I don't know which one we're dealing with. Hey, look, now they should all be coming alive. Then we can start doing our leveling, guys. Okay, type, normal, nope. 3 servos at 120 degrees. Now I can tell which one's which. That's not what we have. That's another way you could do it. Ours is 120, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure.
That's not it.
Are those our choices?
120 would be 360 divided by 3, so that's it. Yeah, so it's that way. Well, what other choices are there? Yeah, so that's definitely it, 120. See, and you can see them moving, but we definitely don't have them in the right holes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to just basically, so that is already correct. That's the pitch axis. That's the roll left. That's the roll, whoa. Did I get correct? That's pitch. That's pitch back. Watch this. Crap, what channel's what? Nope. There we go. So that's up, that's down, up, down, down, up. Except that's not correct either, because that should be, that's like throttle pitch control. See that? That should be moving all three up. So I'm gonna just go normal. That is backward, okay? That's incorrect. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. But I don't know which one's which. Oh, you know what? Guys, now we can tell A, C, and B. Okay, so A is over here. So in our case, A is this control, which is number 3. So number 3 happens to be whichever one this is. Okay. That happens to be number 2. Okay.
And is it where the arm, the servo arm is
This one
located?
happens to be, oh crap, you see what I just did? Holy shnikes. Are you kidding me? Look what just happened, guys. Oh my gosh. So that's number 1, and I was in the correct spot on all 3. Son of a biscuit. Okay. All right, we're gonna pause. I'll get an X-Acto knife and a crimper and fix that. It's surgery time on Brian Phillips RC. The patient was ripped in half by its owner. Right here, as you can see. Violently ripped out of its connector. Never to be seen again by its family.
What happens when you stick it in the wrong hole?
I guess. So we have to release this pin and hopefully it will fall. If you do it just right, you won't have to rebuild the whole thing. You just have to rebuild the one. Which, to be honest, is not that big a deal. It's just annoying. There it goes. See how it fell out?
Oh, good.
Okay. So, to be honest with you, that's a fluke. I was yanking on it, and this just happens sometimes. Maybe I can get lucky and slide it back in. If not, I'll rebuild another one from scratch, okay? So you can see those strands need to be retucked. And that's gonna probably be a huge no-go. You need to turn that light on. Okay. Oh, for God's sake, that ain't gonna work. All right, so I have 3 different types of crimpers here. There's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3 over here. Now, why do I have 3 different types of crimpers? Because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say hoarder. I thought you were gonna say hoarder.
No. Glutton for punishment. Okay, so this is a connector. Just a singular one. Okay. So this is gonna hopefully be an easy process. It never really is, but I'm gonna pretend like it's gonna be. Okay. All right, so you see this? It's got 24 through 30 and 18 through 22, okay? So the smaller of the 2 is the smaller of the 2. I usually like to pre-crimp part of this, and I look from this side, okay? And see I got it started? Okay, so now that that's started, see this, watch. I think I'm in the wrong hole. I think it's supposed to go up here. See how it's rolling it around? Okay, so now that it's started, that makes it a little bit easier to actually build the end on. Okay, so we're just gonna slide that in there. See how it's in there now? And I'm trying to think what's the easiest way to do this. Because if you look in here on this machine, there's the wider opening and then the narrower opening, okay? And we want the narrower opening actually like this. So I need this to point the camera crew. And then the hardest part about this is you got to keep everything lined up as you're doing it. And I've always struggled with this step, but I've been able to do it successfully like 14 times. Okay, so look at this now. We have a purchase into the wire, and then we have a purchase of the wire. See this? So we have a good purchase. We have a good bite into the actual sheath of the wire, and we have good contact, okay? So now when I slide this in, there is a little key that sometimes gets squished. And I can never remember, there it is. There's the key that gets squished. See how I just lifted that up a little bit? That will be a lot easier to catch if you do that. And then watch, this slides in. Boop. Come on now, get in there. You know you want it. Oh, it's in, okay? So now that should be fine. Also, I misspoke right before we paused. And I had 1, 2, and 3 in order, 1, 2, 3. Well, 1, 2, and 3 do not correspond to A, B, and C. Okay, so as a result, it gets really confusing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably going to take a marker that the camera crew is going to help me get. We are going to mark this so that we know which one's which, okay? And so it's an ultra fine Sharpie. And so now we know which one's which. C is this one, okay? So this is C over here. So this number 1 is actually C as in cat. C as in Charlie, sorry. Okay, so there's C. Then it looks like A is over there, so it would be this one. So this is A. I have A as 3, okay? So we got that labeled as A. And then this one here is gonna be B, backseat driver. And that happens to be number 2. So number 2 is B. Yes, they're hard to read because it's black on black, but I can read it, okay? Then this one is number 1. Number 1 is C as in Charlie. Okay, and then this one would leave us with A, and I'm gonna just double cross-reference that again. That's number 3. 3 should be
A.
3 should be A. Yep. Cool. All right, so now we put the marker out of the way. We can start hooking these up. So now how do I know which one's which? Because A, B, C, guys. So now we have A, which happened to be number 3. So we had that incorrect. We need brown as down. Okay, so there we go. Don't worry about the digital noise, that's normal. Okay, then we have number C, that's the 3rd one, so number 2, which happened to be B, so B was in the correct position. Don't mind me jumping, that's all part of the show. And then this one is C, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna center these out. Obviously they're in the incorrect position and that's fine. We'll have to deal with that shortly, but now I can start testing up, down, left, right. So it's literally in the incorrect everything, okay? So pitch forward, wrong. Pitch back, wrong. Throttle up, wrong. Throttle down, wrong. Roll left, roll right. Man, that is so frustrating because it's like, how could it all be wrong? Okay. Okay, now forward, backward, roll left, roll left, roll right. Backward, forward, throttle up, throttle down. Hey, well, at least they're all going the same direction.
Okay.
Good. All right. That was weird. And it's like, what better way to not instill confidence than to have everything go in the exact opposite direction? Okay, so now, if this is truly where it's supposed to be, what I'm looking for is 90 degrees here And I'm then looking for flat here and flat here. Only if this can be maintained in a flat position, okay? Now you're like, but Brian, I thought you had that level thing on there. I did, and then it fell off like 14 times. So what I probably ought to do is I ought to just zip tie the dang level to the tail, boom. Because that would be the easiest thing, because it's like, honestly, it's gonna be part of this for a little bit. So I am actually just gonna zip tie that on there.
Okay.
And that's gonna be something that we can just cut off when we're done, it's no big deal. But that way, we always have a quick, ready access to level. So I'm just gonna run this through. Now you guys watching at home laughing, I know there's like at least most of you. Just remember, this is my first time, so don't make fun of me that much. But you can leave it in the comments if you think what I did was the stupidest thing ever. And just remember, we're not above complaints and stuff. We get them all the time. And we take them to heart. We actually do seriously try to get better though. And part of getting better is being a little bit vulnerable to making mistakes and stuff. And so that's why we're here doing this, because there's a lot of people that are never gonna even think about trying this because they're afraid it's too hard. And it is kind of hard, you know, compared to what I do, it's hard, okay? All right, so that's level now. Why do we care that that's level? Because now I can start looking at my surfaces and say, okay, are they level? And I don't like this system because if I bump this even a little bit, it slips out. I wish there was a better way. Can you think of a better way? I can't think of really an especially better way.
The only thing would be is if we used like shelf liner and folded it up, so at least
because it wouldn't slip. I don't hate that idea, but it's so soft. Well, and the other thing is if you look at, because we rotated the direction of travel on these servos, it's moved them out of the home position. They were at centered, but as with other occasions, that's what I was looking for over here. As with other occasions, whenever I reverse surfaces, like on an airplane, if I reverse the ailerons, a lot of times the absolute home position changes slightly. And that's pretty much what happened here again, okay? So now what I have to do is I have to go in here with my probably a 1.5 millimeter, and I think I have to redo some of these servo positions. And I hope I don't have to re-Loctite everything, but I probably will have to. Okay. Because, I mean, we'll just do the first one and see how it goes. Fortunately, the Loctite seems to have worked because it's kind of goopy and difficult to get out. So I want to pull this off. And I want to see if I can get it any more centered than it was. Again, I'm just looking for 90 degrees, folks. And to be honest, you know what? I'm probably where I needed to be. See, it's either up or it's down, and it's not perfect either way. So the sub trim will help us get rid of that.
Because it's one spline.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
Now it's too high.
One spline too high, one spline too low.
Yep.
So I guess we're gonna sub trim those SOBs.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I was hoping we could do.
I knew, we were talking about last night, we were chumming it up, and Megan was like, yeah, I want to sub trim those SOBs. That's
exactly.
If I had $1 for every time you said that.
You would have $0. Okay, when do we use the little pitch gauge thingy?
Don't you worry, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're like 7 steps away.
Great.
Hey, can I get a paper towel from you though while you're standing up? Okay, so this is our Loctite that we were using during the build. And guys, I know some of you are gonna think, you know, you time-lapsed it and for that reason we hate your guts. Well, just remember guys, we just can't do 7 or 8 hour videos.
Trust us, you
It just doesn't, there's nothing to be gained there. You saw what you needed to see, which was I looked at a manual and followed the instructions on the build. I mean, they're gonna always be different. It's not like you can watch that one video and see how to do it for every plane or helicopter, okay?
And we didn't really like run into anything.
Yeah, we did, except for the tail.
Figuring out, yes.
We did on the tail.
But we talked about that.
That's right, we did. But I don't even know, are we gonna use that part of the video? It's so long and useless.
No, just the little part at the end where we said we're done.
Yeah,
We'll be back tomorrow.
I don't even know if we're gonna show that. But the thing is, guys, really there was only one spot back here. And inside of here, there's a gear. That gear has like a slice in it and it faces away from you if you have the tail facing you as you're building. And what happens is it just hides from you. And then you're like, oh crap.
Like where does that pin go?
Where does that pin go that keeps the whole assembly together? It's buried inside of that.
Yeah. Not on the end of the way that it looks in the manual.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even show it in the manual. Which there were admittedly a few. I don't know why you got two. I just need the one.
Okay.
Okay, so now if I look at the others, you can tell that they're definitely like down. I just can't say that I'm gonna get like a whole lot better. Maybe on this one, I have to try. It sucks, I have to try. If you're gonna show them what I'm doing, you're gonna have to be over here. See, this one's down far enough, it might be a full spline down. Which means I'm gonna need that back, no matter what. Thank you. So guys, for those of you that aren't used to doing all this tedious work, welcome to my world. Hey, that is pretty darn 90 degrees right there. That one was better, okay? I think the one behind in the back seat is probably gonna be similarly bad.
Okay.
So if you guys haven't figured out what we're doing here, all we're doing is we're just trying to get the control arms at 90 degrees with no sub trims. Now that we've reversed the operation, the direction of travel, because we had to, we have no choice in this regard. And yes, I'm Loctiting them like the instructions called for, which I don't like using Loctite on plastic components, but they specifically said, use Loctite on every one of these things. And so because they specifically called it out, I'm gonna do it that way. Otherwise, I would not do it that way because I've had one too many plastic components fail. All right, so then this one here, I really honestly can't tell you. This one is down like that. I honestly don't know. I'm just gonna have to try it. God, all three of them, right?
Yep. Well, the one we couldn't change. So we'll see about
the one we couldn't improve.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna try going up to get that level. And that's too high. That's kind of hard to tell actually. I gotta get this thing out. So folks, if you're new to the channel, we appreciate you being here with us. Most of the time we aren't doing so much guesswork on this channel, so just understand that for future reference. We actually usually know what the heck we're doing to a certain degree. With Helis, it's just one of those things where we haven't done it as much. But you gotta start somewhere, guys. You gotta start somewhere. Don't give up though. There's only a million things you can screw up and cause yourself to lose your head. There you go. Oh yeah, that one's like perfect now. Okay.
Okay.
Well, we got lucky on two. It's just the third one we're not gonna get lucky. Remember guys, if you were to reverse the servo direction right now, you would find that it's going to basically give you disparity in absolute position for the 0 degrees. The home position, oh, that does not feel good. I don't know if the threads got misaligned. Oh, feels way better now. Okay. All right, very good. So that's 90 degrees. That's 90 degrees. Now is this one 90 degrees? Because I swear we started with this one, but I just got to re-double check it. Because like I said, since I'm not so used to doing this, I have to consciously double check my own work. I don't think I can do any better than that, hon.
Because then it was up too much.
It was up way too high then. So I'll just torque that down and we're gonna have to call it good and then do mechanical sub trim. So sub trim next. All right, so sub trim next. Gotta wipe my tip. Everybody likes a clean tip. And we'll just get this stuff kind of out of the way. I don't think we're gonna need it anymore because we didn't Loctite the nylocks at the top.
Okay.
Okay, so just getting this, you don't even really need it level yet, but I just want to kind of build the habit. Okay, so this thing obviously needs to be brought up. So how do we do that? We go to sub trim, okay? Okay, so we want to go to sub trim on channel, oh God, I don't remember which one it is.
Wait, is it?
Oh, it's on
that
there.
one, right?
So it's C. Well,
which is
servo. No,
or does that say 2?
That's my number. That's my number. That doesn't mean anything.
Oh.
That's why I'm like so annoyed by this. Like output channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. Give me a break, people. So I don't know which one's which because we didn't label it that way. Okay, I'm just gonna start moving one. Okay, so that's obviously not it. So cancel. You guys see what I did? I just moved one. That's it. Wait. Why is that one up higher? Why is that not? Why are they up higher?
When you went to that sub-trim menu, they all jumped.
What?
Yes. Go out of that. See? Do it again.
Well, that's super helpful. So does that mean I'm in the wrong position then?
I don't know. I'm in the wrong person.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay, so minus 40. Nope. Okay, sub trim. Just, yeah, minus 40. I'm gonna do minus 75. So now that looks pretty dang close. Probably a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm gonna go back in to sub trim. Has to reload all this data every time. Okay. I'm gonna go to like 70. When I go back, then it looks really dang level. Okay, good enough for me. Oh geez, is that not level? It's not.
Looks like it's down.
Needs to go up a little bit.
A little bit more.
So 75 was too much, 70 was not enough. So we're gonna go like 72. Okay, now walking out.
That's better.
See how that's nice and square, guys? At 90 degrees. It's at 90 degrees. Okay, good enough, right? Or are we gonna go to 73?
I don't know.
Let's go to the other side. Let's check the other ones.
Okay.
So check this one. Does that look pretty good? That looks pretty good to me, but it's maybe not absolutely perfect.
That's what it looks.
I don't know. They're as close as they're gonna get there. Now we gotta look at the swash plate or that middle, and I feel like this turnbuckle might need to bring this up just a hair.
So what are you looking at now?
I'm looking at this turnbuckle to bring this up just a hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't say that needs anything. It's so dang close. It seems like it's just slightly up. Okay, so how the heck am I gonna adjust that? You suppose I can try forceps? I'm gonna try needle nose. There's other ways I could do it, guys, but I have super small box end wrench set too. That might be the easier way.
Oh.
Look like janitor keys.
Yeah, that's like.
I don't know if I have
Not
one
even
that
that
small.
tiny.
4mm is the smallest I've got. Oh dang, it's like a lot smaller
Really
than that.
small.
Yep, that's the smallest I have, so I'll have to go to needle nose plier.
A really teeny tiny crescent wrench.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm just gonna use needle nose pliers.
Okay. So you want that thingy to go up?
No, I want it to come down just a hair.
Oh, okay.
Like hardly any, but this is an analog adjustment you don't have to do. And it's a turnbuckle, so I can never remember which way they go because one's reverse and one's forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is not adjusting. How the heck am I gonna adjust that thing? Let's figure it out. All right, so I didn't actually make any adjustment on there, but I'm kind of having second thoughts about it because it looks pretty dang good. But what I wasn't having second thoughts about is tightening this screw and that screw. I forgot to tighten them, which is kind of a big deal. So as you're working through this process, you're gonna hopefully catch. I had both of those loose. I don't know why I left those loose, but I did. So that's something that you definitely want to double check on, is just periodically you want to check as you're looking. Because I started moving everything and I noticed that these linkages were loose here. So, okay, so if the swash plate is level there, then the next thing we have to do is we have to make sure that these things are level. Now, if you look up on top, I've heard on certain Helis, these lines are supposed to line up when they're square, and on others, they don't line up when they're square. you see how I'm not square and I'm not square because those aren't lined up? That can be adjusted hopefully by adjusting this turnbuckle now. Okay, so this turnbuckle here, I need to probably bring this back toward me. So I'm just gonna go one direction and see what happens, okay? Did it go toward me or away from me?
It went, oh,
So you don't know.
it didn't move enough to see.
Okay, so there's 3 turns. Where did it go?
That's going towards you.
It's going toward me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. 3, 4. How far is it off from being at the mark?
It's getting
Are you
worse.
sure?
You need to go that way.
So when I did the same thing, it changed a different direction.
No. Well, it's getting closer to the line.
The center line is going to the center,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Couple more. Oh, that's really close right there.
Okay,
Hang
so
on,
now I need to
1,
get these square. So you're saying I went one too far. Now I'm
Maybe.
gonna look.
You look at it from the top.
I think it looks pretty much perfect.
Okay.
So now that should get a square, but I don't know. Then this one here, I gotta do the same thing. So I'm just gonna rotate this around. So I need to bring this one. Three, 4, 5. Okay, so that's pretty darn level there. The helicopter's over here. You might get a better shot of it over here, I bet. Okay, so just trying to pull this around the last little bit. Okay, so now those are both lined up really dang close to the lines. Okay, and so my next big move is gonna be, if we have that true and we have the swash plate level, now I need to level the aircraft. We probably need to get the pitch gauge out. Okay, so we've got that presumably level. You gotta really watch your step because every time you do something, I can see it move.
Okay.
So you gotta take really light steps, okay? So this is where it's gonna be super annoying if this thing wants to move on us, okay? So now at this point, I wanna check the pitch of the blades, and so I'm gonna take and turn this thing on, and then I'm gonna just lay it level here. And I'm gonna, why did it shut off? You suppose it's something about like the way the batteries are in there? Okay. So now I'm gonna try to put this on the blade. So that's too much, and that's too much. Good. Just bring it back to neutral. That is so dang close. I don't think we're gonna get a huge change out of that, but I'm gonna still try. Do you see a change? Yeah, we did. We
Yep.
changed quite a bit, actually. I went too much. Zero to 0.1. Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna say, don't complain about that and take it.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm gonna come in here mid-blade I'm just going to look at this. Okay. So now we're -1. Minus, okay, so I'm going to go half a turn back. Okay, try that again. 3 3/10. Sorry, folks. I got to try to re-level my boom. Okay. So that's making it worse. 1, 2. That ought to get us right about where we need to be. Son of a biscuit. Okay, good enough. Okay, so we're as good as we can get that. We're pretty much on our marks, which is what we want to see. Lined up here, we've got level and true. Gotta check this. Almost wonder if I need to get a second level so I can go horizontally as well and see if we're level there. I wonder if I can go straight across here on the receiver. Oop, yeah, that didn't work. Here, I'll just go like this. Oh, look at that. It puts the markings the right way up. You gotta walk light. See? 1.8 compared to 1.5. Okay, so if I zero this, zero this, put it up on the receiver, you got a super duper small disparity. I wonder if it's just the 3M tape there. Could also be the engagement into that manual. So I'm going to press down on this and zero it. Okay, so we got 0 now. Got 0.4. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, again, splitting hairs is what I do. Now I'm going to recheck. That is pretty cool when you flip it upside down. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to put this all the way halfway down. Oh, crap. Oh, it's because I didn't zero it when I flipped it upside down. It evidently does not like it the same way. Holding this flush, zeroing. We're at 0. Okay, 0.2 plus minus 0.2, whatever. Good enough. Okay. That's like, should be nothing, I hope. Now, we're going to turn the prop, the rotor, this way. And we're going to check this. Back into Ford programming. Setup. Waiting for it to load. Connection failure. Why? Ford programming. Setup. What the heck? Okay. Set up. You can do it. Why? I may have to reboot this thing if it keeps acting funny. Set up. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Dangerously, we're gonna turn off the helicopter, the transmitter. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna turn it back on. We also need to set failsafe too at some point, I know that. Okay, here we go. So we're back on. We're working. Now I'm gonna go back to forward programming. Setup, swash plate. Oh, there we go. Output setup. Okay, so now here's what I was doing. Let's go back to where we were. We need to level the aircraft again. Okay, so we're level there. We're -1 degree. So I don't know if I need to do sub trim. Okay, so we're 11.6, we're -1. So do we want to change C and B? So that'd be 3 and 2. No, that's not the way we're gonna do it. That's not possible. That can be the easiest way to do that. There's gotta be another way. And you know what? I don't know exactly what it is, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this all the way around and we're gonna see what we've got over there happening. So over here we've got -1.3. And just after wiggling it, guess what? We're right where we were on the other side. So we're -1 degree going backward. So I wonder if we're gonna be able to be so specific to fix that. I do not know, guys. I don't think we can. So I took my needle nose pliers and adjusted this turnbuckle the best I could. So it's -0.2. I don't think I'm gonna get it any better than that, okay? So I'm gonna just bring it over to this side and see if we have the same. We have -0.9, okay? So I'm kind of getting the feeling that I'm not gonna be able to get that specific because the adjustment technique that I'm using evidently sucks. So let's just see if we lost all this adjustment, which it doesn't look like we completely lost it, but at the same time, so 4.7 degrees, now we need to use our reference of on the actual box here. Okay, and then on the boom, .7. So we do have a small disparity on the flight controller angle compared to the angle of the actual rest of it. Okay, I'm gonna call that as good as I can get it. If it's not good enough for you Heli guys, I understand that might not be good enough. But we'll just have to find out from learning because that's as close as I can get it. All right, so now let's look at our instructions here. We're gonna go ahead and shut this off for now and we'll put it aside. All right, so navigate to swash. We already did the frame rate. We did the type. Did all that. We did the sub trim. In the roll and pitch axis, okay? Select AFR. That's our next move. Okay. Verify the roll and pitch cyclic are moving in the correct direction by moving the cyclic. Well, that was weird. Why did it tip so much? Forward, backward, roll to the right, roll to the left. Yep. Place a pitch gauge on the main rotor blade and zero it out. Align the blade with the roll axis. Apply full right cyclic and adjust the AFR to 12. Okay. So this is where I need to bring this back over by me. I'm going to go ahead and get this level again. Then I'm going to put this square. Now I'm going to put this on. So this is on the roll axis. So I'm going to just turn it on. Put it in here about midway. Okay, so we're at 0. That's good. So I'm on the roll axis and I'm going to just move this. See, that's at 16, so that's too much. So I'm just moving this down until it gets to 12.5. Okay, so one step takes us just beyond. $12.7, okay, back to 0. The other way, and then back. 12.7. So there's 5, 12.5, and 13.4. Okay, so what do you do if they're not even? Make sure there's no mechanical binding, I assume. Which I do have this kind of at an angle. So I fix that. There's up, there's down. Okay, so if I'm in the neutral position, it takes forever to come back to that center position. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to 0 it. Okay, rolling to the left, 12.8, rolling to the right, 13.1. So if I go from 61 to 60, let's see how that looks. To the left, we got 12.8. To the right, we've got 12.9. If I go from 60 to 59, 12.4 compared to 12.5. That's good enough. I don't think we're gonna get any better. Now, on the pitch axis, we're gonna do the same thing. Yep, same thing. So we're gonna go to this axis and we're gonna 0 it. We're gonna pull back. So we're way past. So we can go from 75 down to like 65. Okay, so we're at 66. So that's back is 12.6. And then forward is, let's go up to 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. Okay, so we're at, I don't think we can go any further. I think we might be maxed out on our servo, right? That's gonna be way below. Are you showing both of these things? So here's 12.3 at 72 on the AFR for the pitch. I'm gonna go ahead and just zero this again. And then I'm gonna go forward. 13.2 compared to 13.1. Okay, if I go down to 70, I am gonna see if I need to zero it. I'm gonna zero it again. Whatever. So 12.6 compared to 12.9. Good enough. All right. So now that we're done with that, okay, adjust the collective to set your desired collective pitch range. Remove the pitch gauge. Remove the pitch gauge. So then the collective, I have no idea what's normal. But what I'm gonna look for instead is binding. Yep, it binds right up here at the top. And show the people from over my left shoulder. You'll see what I'm talking about. Watch right here, guys. This is gonna bind at the very top of the stroke. See how it bends the control linkage? So I'm gonna click this 45. See how I'm bringing it away from that? Good. Okay, so I don't know what normal is. So if that's normal, I guess that's normal. But like we don't have below zero at all either. So you're gonna show them this now? So there's 30, 39 or 40. So at 40, I feel like at 39 we don't get to the point where it binds. Okay? Okay, I guess that's where it is. So 59, 70, and 39 on mine. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this back. We can take off the pitch gauge now. And that's off. So now we need to do the next step. What are we doing next? Tail rotor output setup. Okay. Tail rotor output setup. So this we need to set to 560 or 330. They said you can set them to either one. So I'm gonna set it to 560, I guess. Whoa. That's kind of freaky. Okay, so we've got direction. I'm gonna turn the helicopter so I can see what's going on. They said we can do it at 330, right?
Yes.
Whoa. That range is definitely not set. Okay. So I'm gonna just take that thing out because I don't really care about that anymore. I don't even know if I care about level yet. I'm concerned about overdriving that servo. Okay, so the direction. Travel. I want to reduce the travel like ASAP. Because I feel like it's going to end up damaging itself if I don't get that done. See there, it's running into itself. You see what I've done? I've held this over all the way. And I just back it away. I've hit other things here. And then over here. Okay, so I realized I was adjusting, but I was still on this one. So I'm just gonna hold the stick all the way to the right and then just bring this back. I don't even know what direction I'm going yet, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. All that digital noise sure makes it hard to differentiate between. That's so like all at once. It's so weird. Not used to that in airplanes. I gotta just get my eyes down here. Yeah, we're hitting something. Are you gonna show them what I'm hitting? You're gonna have to turn the flash on probably. We're hitting the body. See that? Watch there, guys. There it is. Hold steady. It's running into itself. Mm-hmm. So they said to go to 115 degrees, and I don't know. They must have screwed the pooch on that one. Okay, come out. I don't know exactly how we're going to resolve that, to be honest. Feels like that thing should be on the other side. Whoops. Why isn't that rod on the other side of the control arm? If it's on the other side, I feel like it would have clearance all the way back. Look at this, guys. You see how it's on the inside? If that was on the outside, I feel like it would clear everything. Now it's hitting its own body. So I don't know, is that wrong?
We're gonna lose mics here pretty soon.
So I don't know if I want to take that off right now and just flip it around. Because I am not liking that one bit. Or if I'm like already so far, it doesn't even matter. I mean, I feel like I got a ton of throw on it. Oh, for God's sake. I always feel like I'm catching something weird on a heli when I work on it. That's where it's hitting, otherwise. Okay, so I'm going to where the thing hits, and you got the flash on there, camera crew. Okay, so now this is out. Let's make sure we don't have anything hitting there. And I don't think we do. We're good there. We're running into something. I think we're running out of range on this throw. No, we're not. So that's the max, that's the max, that's the max, that's the max. Now I'm gonna double check back here that I don't have any maximum engagement here where I'm. Show them how close this is, camera crew. You're gonna have to turn that light on. Look how close all that crap is. You see how close that is? Mm-hmm. It's like literally a millimeter away from hitting itself. And yet it doesn't hit. That is a really fast servo. I bet it's hot. No, it's actually not that bad. It's warm, but it's not like hot, hot, hot. I figured it'd be like burning hot. Okay, looks pretty nasty out there.
It does.
All right, so my next move is, I did that first because the direction, I can't tell if it's right yet. So I want the nose of the helicopter to go that way, the nose of the helicopter to go that way. So left would pull the helicopter this way, which means we need to push this way. So it needs to be reversed. Ooh, see now, of course, we're gonna have to redo our stupid directions, dang it. So now when I push the nose that way, it's gonna push the tail that way. When I push the nose to the right, it's gonna push the tail opposite, okay? See what I'm talking about? And then sub trim, not worried about, and then travel. Gosh, I can't tell. Okay, there we go. Finally, I can see. Okay, so I'm at like 50 now. Now I need to double check down here too. Yep, we're good on that end. So now we need to go to the right. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down here and see if we're engaging. We are hitting, so I have to back it off again. Okay, that's the most we can have. All right, now my question becomes, even though we have that set, how do I make that even? So that's all the way one way. See, we're not hitting anything now. That's all the way the other way. All the way one way, all the way the other way. And you're still gonna have freedom. That's gonna push the tail this way, which means the helicopter's gonna go that way. The helicopter's gonna go that way. Okay, so we have our directions correct, but we have 44 and 90. Okay, so now the sub trim, I assume is gonna get us centered. Wow, that's pretty close. See how close it is? That's surprisingly close. I did not expect it to be that close. Okay, so now back. Of course, the sub trim changes the absolute position, so that's super handy. 82, all right, I'm out. Okay, we needed to go the other direction. So 40, what? Does it just like not come to the home position? It's so slow to get there. I wonder if there's a mechanical adjustment on here. I don't think there really is on this. The only mechanical adjustment would be on the spline of the servo or on this, which we could turn that out like turnbuckle style, which would work.
Turn that out?
The rod.
The rod itself?
Yeah. So I'm gonna get out of the sub trim. How much is that gonna take though? Because going out, we need to pull it in actually, is what we need to do. We need to pull it in. Let's see if we can just do that for our mechanical adjustment. Okay, sorry guys, we had like a squall come through. If you look out at our windsock, and then if you look back at the trees, show them the trees back there, it's a little bit windier than average.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we're just trying to set this heli up right now, and trying to get this mechanical adjustment made is actually not like really super easy, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to shorten this rod, and I think I'm going the wrong way because it's kind of like opposite of what you expect it should be, because it's got that turnbuckle behavior to it. Yeah, it's shortening it now. So what that's gonna do is that's gonna pull everything a little bit closer, which should get this closer to even mechanically. Okay. But it's just so slow getting back to center because I don't want to use the sub trim up if I don't have to, because we don't have enough. Okay, so that's like 45 instead of 70 now. So just getting it into the center. I can never tell if it's in the center or not because it just chills there.
And then like it just like slowly moves.
Slowly walks over.
Yeah. It's actually easy to see this way up against your gray.
The gray shirt? Okay.
Shirt. Goodness gracious.
Man, it's really blowing out there. And then the sub trim, it snaps to center. So it's like, that is so not helpful.
No.
So if I go to 70, let's see how that looks. We wake it up. I feel like there's so much that way and then there's so much less this way.
Yeah, it seems.
But which way is this blade going to rotate? It's going to rotate this way. If it's going to rotate this way, then that's going to want to pull the tail. So we're going to need more that way anyway. So I guess that's probably right anyway. Okay, so lots of different steps so far. Lots of mechanical trimming, lots of centering, lots of stuff for sub trims. Where are we at now? Camera crew's going to have to stop us eventually because our mics are going to die.
Yep, very soon.
Okay, so we're done on the tail setup. Oh, dang it. Okay, so now I'm back to setup. The tail rotor is set up now. Okay, great. Oh crap, there's a pre-flight. That's always handy. Okay, so exit forward programming. Configure the throttle settings according to the instructions provided by your ESC, internal combustion engine, and transmitter manufacturer. Once throttle setup is complete, enter forward programming mode and select throttle failsafe. Okay, so now what we need to do is, gosh, I don't know exactly the best way to do that for throttle because I have no idea. There's really not anything special about it that I can tell, but we definitely need to set failsafe. But failsafe needs to be in the correct direction. If we have to rotate the direction of output, there's only one way I know to do that, and that is to basically hook up the motor and see what direction it goes. But then this thing, I don't want to take everything apart. I just want to take this apart. And worst case scenario, those blades start spinning. If the top starts spinning, I think I can handle that and not have a massive disaster on our hands. But I think what I'm going to do is probably just go ahead and pull the main rotor off. Be the quickest way, safest way. So we'll do that. Now, normally, I'm not going to tell you guys to do this or not do this. That's up to you. That's between you and God and your wife and her living standards.
Emergency room doctors.
Yes, exactly.
Your insurance.
But it's very easy to take these off, so I'm going to take these off. It's actually slightly easier than some props on some planes.
Yeah.
Slightly harder than other props. Okay, now if this starts, it's still going to have a propensity to want to like go nuts because this thing is still going to be very powerful. So I'm trying to decide if it's still safe enough to do it. I am not going to leave this level on here any longer, so I'm going to cut that off now. It's just a simple zip tie holding it on. So now we should have everything kind of like basically set up. Now we need to just test the ESC. And I'm trying to decide if I hold this, that should be enough to stop it from spinning around like a maniac. I don't think anything's going to happen. I'm going to walk out of forward programming under normal circumstances, normal. Okay, so there's the different modes. Servo setup, if I'm looking at throttle, throttle's up and down, throttle holds off, and then they go together. Okay, we haven't set up any of the setups on that. So I'm gonna just have throttle cut off, throttle cut on, and throttle stick down, okay? I'm in normal mode. meaning that it should be spooling up from nothing to something, okay? So I'm gonna just try to plug this in, and I gotta keep my fingers safe. If it starts spinning, it's probably gonna make me poop my pants. Poop my pants. Okay, all right, so now this is gonna wanna spin the aircraft pretty strong when I do this, okay? So I wanna control it so that if it starts really pushing me one way or the other, I can control it. Okay, throttle cut is off. So that's correct. So it's going this way, and then it's resisting by trying to push us, right? Mm-hmm. Here, I'm gonna see if I can. Everything seems good there. Okay, and also let's make sure our direction of travel is correct. Okay, so we're going that way. Throttle cut is on and everything is working there. And then this is the way they're gonna go. So that would definitely be spinning up the correct direction. We'd also be creating this rotational axis, which is gonna wanna spin the tail, and we're resisting by blowing that way. So that's good. So like the basic flight function should be set up now. So we can continue with some level of impunity. We can now trust the aircraft to be safe. We got to go set up fail safe. Okay, so that's our next move. How are we doing on mics?
Mine's dead and yours is almost done.
Okay, all right, so we got to go back into forward programming. So forward programming is here. And it's under setup. Connection failed. Forward programming. Setup, throttle, failsafe. So setup, throttle, failsafe, capture failsafe positions. So we're in normal mode, throttle down, neutral stick. I'm gonna have safe activated within normal, okay? Connection failed. Okay, so we gotta make sure that happened. So we're gonna try it again. I don't understand. Sometimes you'll get that with forward programming. Usually you don't, but sometimes you do. If you do, you better make sure it got it, especially on this one. Complete. Okay, good. All right, so now what we wanna do is I wanna simulate a outage so we can show you how that works. Okay, throttle cuts off. Oh, we gotta back out. Okay, so throttle's going. This is fail-safe, okay? Good, we have tested it. We know that we can trust it. Trusting the system means knowing that it's gonna work. Throttle high, throttle's down, throttle cuts on, everything comes back to life, and we should be safe to go, okay? So those are the types of things I need as an amateur heli guy, is knowing that I can be safe, okay? Because to be honest with you, I don't get nervous with planes because they're a long ways away from me most of the time. With helicopters, I stay pretty close. All right, we're gonna probably have to stop there because we're about to lose our mic, and we appreciate you guys staying tuned. This is a very tedious process for us. NX10 has been pretty straightforward, although we're losing connection and forward programming. I have seen that before from people that have to do a lot of forward programming. Also, we have all this set up. We have that set up. We have all sorts of things set up, which is really comforting to know that we're getting closer to the goal, which is a flying helicopter in terrible weather. Just kidding, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna fly this in good weather because it's gonna be a sweet heli, and I don't wanna crash it on the first go around. But that being said, thanks for being patient with us. Hopefully this video is helpful for some of you who know nothing about what you're doing, kind of like me, and we'll be able to help each other along the way. So stay tuned, so much more. All right, so we had to charge everything. That's why it's dark. We're picking up where we left off. Charged batteries, charged mics, everything got charged, okay? So we're gonna plug this thing back in and we can start to build some more trust in this system. Every time we have a power cycle, we can make sure everything is working. Throttle hold in particular is working, and I am getting more confident with that, so that's great. Okay, so one thing that we need to finish on is we need to just verify the direction of travel, and that's all good so far. And then of course our tail pushes it that way, pushes it that way. Yep, everything looks good there. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is the other thing we didn't ever do is we never checked the correction direction, because I think the correction direction is wrong, but that's because we never indicated its position in the gyro. So we gotta pick up there. So camera crew, click, scroll down to forward programming, enter forward programming, and I believe this is still under setup. Gyro settings, orientation, that is incorrect.
That one.
That one, yep, that's it. Okay, so now we should be able to see the movements. Okay? And what you're gonna see is this is gonna mimic the movement of the helicopter. Okay? It's gonna be resisting the movement rather. Okay? So when looking at the front, yep, it's gonna resist the movement. So this is gonna try to keep everything nice and level, even though the helicopter's moving underneath it. So if you imagine the swash as level, a horizon on a compass, that's what you're gonna see. And look at the tail, correcting, 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 correcting. Okay, very easy to see on this, so that's good. Okay, so that's orientation 5, so we're gonna acknowledge that and go back. Is that it? Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought I was gonna have to do a calibration there. Okay, so throttle, we already set the fail-safe. Hover, this 65 is an algorithm that's part of the flight controller that is going to tell the system to try to help keep you from tipping over on startup when you start spooling up. Okay, so if you're hover, if you find after you've started flying your maiden flight and you're at about like 60, 55%, and you're not gaining or losing altitude, then you can come back and set that value to your hover point, okay? Now, we obviously won't know what that is until we fly it, so we're not gonna be able to set it. Okay, and then this flight mode channel, I don't know if that is correct yet. I don't think I did it right yet. But gain channel is definitely gear, which is what it's supposed to be by default. Okay, so just looking at this, this is the agility this is the degrees per second. And then these are the derivative. All these things are just basically gain values, okay? Let's just look at it the easy way. And I wanna show you, this should be attached to each of the 3 modes, but we do not have it correctly attached right now. So I believe what I wanna do is I wanna go back to setup, and I want to change the flight mode. See how that says gear? There it is. Wait, it doesn't like that. Can I just pick another? Okay, so we've already got that all set. There we go, back one more layer. Okay, so roll. You can see it says normal. It's not changing the mode. Those values will be tied to each of the flight modes. And it's not changing there either. I just want to see if any of these is already changing it. No, no, No. 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 Obviously throttle hold's back here. I'm gonna shut throttle hold off just to see what happens. Nothing. Okay. So we need to make an association in here. Under setup. And I had that on aux 2. See, it does not like sharing that same one. So I guess I'm gonna go to aux 2 and see what happens. Now if you select, see how it says flight mode 3? There you go. So I'm controlling it with this switch, but I really would like to be controlling it with the same switch because I want my flight modes to be controlled by the gear channel in this case. So if I go down to, let's see if I can do flight modes in here. Oh, there's gyro. The switch B, there it goes. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back into forward programming. I'm gonna go back to setup and I'm just gonna see what this says. aux 2. Now I'm gonna go back, swatch plate, roll. So now it's being controlled by this switch or this switch? This switch. Now I don't want that switch to control it. I want it to be all tied to the same switch. That's what I'm used to. That's what I'm going to be doing. Safe, stability, on. But that says flight mode 3. Flight mode 1, hold, okay? That is all set wrong. I want that to be set to switch B. So I am gonna figure out how to do that by going to monitor mode. So you can see the flight modes are changing, but over here, auxiliary 2 is controlled. So I don't know why gyro, it didn't save it. There we go. OTF. And I think they said set these to 75% to start. Although this does seem a little different than the Spectrum setup. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back into this. Now I want to see what's happening with the swash now. I keep going in here because it's a good indication of if it's connected. Still not. Not there, not there. Not, it's still over here on E. I don't want it on switch E. I don't know why it won't let us do that. So that's all correct. Now I want to see what happens when we move it real quick while I'm thinking about it. Oh yeah, it's going forward, it's going backward, it's going left, it's going right, and it's adjusting the tail rotor. Okay, so everything there is working. Calibrate sensor. So this is where it's going to calibrate the sensor level. This is where we need to level the thing, which I was trying to do all throughout setup. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this across the boom and just get this thing dead level. I gotta hang that tail off of there. Okay, so once that's level, which is pretty dang good there, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this, I can't necessarily hold that there and see, because it's not level this way, folks. It's pretty close, but it's not perfect. Is it getting pretty close there?
You have to probably come this end. Look, needs to go, bowl needs to go towards you a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much level. And I'm gonna put this back down. It should put it back to where it was. And then I gotta go just a hair under evenly. Okay, now I'm gonna recheck. Yes, I realize it's moving, but that's okay, because, okay, so we're level there. And we're dang close here. Okay, so that's good enough for me. Now we're gonna watch that light. The blue light means it's complete. I don't know if it has to go solid. Okay, cool. So now it knows what level is. It knows what direction it's correcting. Okay. Now remember, this is not level. This is level. And I don't understand why that is, why these skids are at such a steep angle, but it sure makes it hard to set up. Okay, so also let's look and see if our telemetry shows us our pack voltage. Let's scroll down to telemetry real quick. Volts. Doesn't look like we have, whoops. Do we have a variable on this? Not that we would need it. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens there. Not looking real promising, is it now? Okay, so now what else do we need to do? We need to set up our throttle curves and our pitch curves. So throttle curves, you see how this says N1 and 2? And you see how it's dashed out? That's because I have my hold on, I believe. So in normal mode, I want expo to not be a factor, okay? Well, hold on. In stunt 1, I want basically, notwithstanding throttle cut, I want this to be stuck at 75%. And that might be a little bit more than I want, but we'll just leave it there for now. Okay? And then in stunt 2, we're gonna put this like 85. Of course, I gotta set that first point too. And if you've never done this before, what you're doing is you're just basically setting up a power setting, and then the pitch is gonna impact whether you go up or down. So you can fly upside down and all that stuff, okay? Okay, so that's just the throttle. You can add points, which I don't need to. So that's normal. Then there's stunt 1, and then there's stunt 2. Okay? Okay. So now what I want to do is, since I have no prop on, I can do this, and I'm just going to go ahead and hold on to this. Throttle hold is off. So it's going to start to spin. It's going to really try to pull that thing. And I got to be careful because I'm actually close to that point. Okay? So you can see it's going to bring, somewhere in this range, it's going to bring everything nice and level, and we're going to get engagement, and the helicopter is going to take off, and it's going to fly. And then we'll be able to lean forward and move and do all the stuff that we expect the heli to do. You just got to be careful about stuff like that because it's so powerful. Okay, so now we've got our throttle hold on and we're just going to test. So the throttle hold works. I also noticed this is not spatially aware, so it doesn't matter if that 3M tape pulled loose, but if this pulled loose, it'd be devastating. So make sure that that doesn't. Okay, now I'd really love to test whether throttle hold is going to work in stunt mode 1 and stunt mode 2. So I'm going to do that now. My throttle hold's on. That can still go live. Stunt mode 1, stunt mode 2. If I were to shut that off, it would immediately snap to 75% throttle. But then the pitch curve hasn't even been set, so we have to set that now. Okay, so where is pitch curve? Am I missing it here?
Is it in system setup?
No.
Oh, right there.
Pitch curve. There we go. Okay. So in normal mode, we're fine. Throttle hold is on. In this one, I want the pitch to be not that at all. That's going to be like crazy. Okay. So I probably want to keep it. It's like this is going to be maybe 25, maybe 35, 50, then 75, 85. Whatever it's going to do to make it fly the way we want. I kind of like Expo on this because that's just going to smooth the line. Let's start at 35. Let's make this 40, 40, 45. And then let's make this exactly 50. And let's make this 65, and then let's make this 75. Okay, so that's a pretty big jump. I don't know if that should probably be higher. Let's smooth that curve out. Okay, so that's in stunt 1. In stunt 2, it's gonna be more aggressive. Okay, so I'm not gonna allow this to ever really go all the way down to 0, because that'd be crazy. 15, 25. Let's let the Expo work. And let's just make a little line. And then 75 and then 100. What did I stop at before? Like 85?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do something like this. Now, you guys can tell me in the comments below if you think that's a bad curve. And you can't see it unless you're highlighting it. Okay, so that's going to give you more pitch and more throttle on stunt 2. On stunt 1, you're gonna have less change in pitch and you're gonna be generally flying upright, okay, because you're above the center line. Okay, the center line means they're gonna be level. If you go above, you're gonna be pitching up and you're gonna be flying up. Okay, if you go below, you're gonna be pitching down and forcing it down, but if you're upside down, you'll be flying. Okay, so I think we're okay there for now. We'll leave that active. Ah, dang it. And again, guys, this is just, you're probably, dang it. Active. So in normal mode, we're gonna start from 0. We'll go up to the normal 25, 50, 75, 100. You're not ever gonna want 100% throttle pitch in normal. Or not throttle pitch, but pitch. So I'm gonna make it like maybe 80, maybe 70. Gosh, that's a lot though. 65. And then this one, do like 35. So it's gonna get spinning pretty quick and then get going, okay? So throttle hold is still on, obviously. If throttle hold's off, then I can hold this again and I'll just be super careful. See, it should jump to speed a little quicker. See, it's spooled up a little faster. Okay, so throttle holds back on and test it. All right, so I'm happy with that. That's basic stuff. It's just, Whatever your preference is what you need to do. So we were supposed to do the calibration. We did the calibration, gyro orientation, throttle curves, pitch curves. So gain channel is gear. Adjust hover in throttle after maiden. Dual rates in expo. Dual rates in expo, guess we could still set that up to switch F like always. Now this is just on the control surfaces as though it were a plane, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and set this all up. And this will actually give us a little bit of flexibility as to how we want the helicopter to fly. I usually fly with a little bit of expo. A lot of 3D pilots don't really use any, or they'll use even negative expo. I'm not one of them. And again, this is very high preference stuff. This is subjective as it gets. So if you say, hey, I don't like the way you set it up, I understand, I appreciate you may like it different, but this is a preference. Everybody is allowed to have their own preference, okay? So I'm gonna start in the middle. I got a little bit more if I want some more, dampening. And then if I want it more sensitive, I can go up to this, but I still have a little bit of dampening, okay? So we'll start in the center though. All right, now we really gotta figure out this whole flight mode thing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so we've got our controls working. Everything should be right here. We've got obviously the rudder working, which of course would be the tail rotor. The swash is nice and level at neutral stick. It looks good. I'm happy with all that. Excuse me, that would be neutral stick. And to be honest with throttle hold on, if we went up to stunt one, see how it jumps up and then it jumps back down? That's not gonna be a good thing. So I wanna go back to my pitch curve and I wanna correct that. So you see how it's 50, then it's 55, then it's 50. So I'm gonna make this at least 55, okay? See, and I'm gonna actually go ahead and make that 55 too. So then what that means is as you go through the curve, that center stick position is gonna be similar or increasing. Okay, and I'm not sure why they're not changing colors. So throttle hold is on. I have to go into one more system setup menu. System setup, disconnect RF, flight mode setup. Okay, so we're on switch B. Ooh, the hold switch is actually set up for switch H. There we go. See that? That's your hold switch. Normal. Flight mode 1, flight mode 2. Normal, hold. See how that works? So when hold is on, it stops it from even going into normal mode. Okay? With hold mode off, you can be in normal, or you can be in flight mode 1, flight mode 2. Okay? So I'm gonna go hold. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna shut that off. How do I name them? Ah, there we go. Normal, flight mode 1, stunt 1. Flight mode 2, stunt 2. Okay, I'm okay with that. I don't need to retype it.
Okay.
Channel assign, this is where I'm really confused. I'm just going auxiliary 2 is B. I don't know if that's gonna work. Throttle holds on, I'm in normal. Throttle holds off, I'm in normal. It's gonna start working. Okay, holds back on. Now, I hope that there's nothing that's gonna come of this. I want to disallow this by inhibiting it because that's gonna cause confusion, okay? Over in monitor mode, I have throttle hold on now. I'm gonna check. Sorry, you're gonna have to get where you can see. So we can see all the pitch changes, okay? No matter which one we're in, it's gonna work, okay? All right, so good. Now when that's off, if I were to accidentally flip that to the middle, it's gonna spin up to 75% throttle. And the pitch curve will be not 0. It's gonna be a negative, so it's gonna like suck it to the table. So you don't wanna accidentally do that, especially if you're green like me. All right, so I feel like we have most of the setup done, but I feel like we're missing something. I just wanna take a quick second and peruse the manual for a second, we'll come right back. Okay, so there is something in here I'm noticing. They're saying that we have to change on flight mode, or stunt mode 1 and stunt mode 2, which is like normal, then stunt 1, then stunt 2. So flight mode 1, flight mode 2, normal's normal. Okay, so there's actually 3 flight modes. Then they want us to change that hover value or change our throttle curve so that our throttle represents higher than that 65. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna just let it work like crap for now because I got so much other stuff I'm not sure is set right. But what I do need to do is I gotta get safe set up too. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this thing to work. Remember, we couldn't get it to accept that setting. Let's hope it works. Forward programming. So let's see setup. Now let's go in here to swash plate. Nope, we gotta go in on this swash plate. Roll. It's not changing. It's not changing. Okay. It's not changing. Okay, so that's not good. I have to still figure out how to do this. So safe, stability and attitude trim. Don't want to worry about that. Stability. I want it on in normal, okay? But I have no way of indicating what mode I'm in because it's currently not set to actually an appropriate value. So it's disallowed the change in flight mode. See, it's not even switching. So what I have to do is I have to figure out a way to make an association between the flight modes so that I can come in here and do this. I have had, like for instance, on my 330S, I had all that tied to one switch. Attitude trim. Now the attitude trim, I forget what that is, but I think that limits how much roll you can have. And then how much roll, I have no idea. We're gonna have to look into that too. Okay. But stability has to be activated for each of the different modes. So you can have stability in stunt 1 if you want, which would be weird. And then you could have no stability in stunt 3, or stunt 2 rather. So like if you wanna do your upside down flying, aggressive flying, fine, but you could go back to auto leveling in stunt 1 so you keep that rotor speed up and you can actually have it auto level while you're doing crazy things. Then when you come out of it, you can come in for your normal landing. Tail rotor. Again, this is gonna be all the different settings for the stabilization through AS3X, and that's only gonna happen when you can switch between your 3 modes, and you will have 3 different settings for each of those modes, okay? So you can tell we've disallowed this from happening. And then safe, of course, it's on, and it's going to be on right now. So like right now, if we walk out, instead of just correcting, watch what's gonna happen. It's gonna auto level, okay? It's not just correcting, it's auto leveling. That is different than what was happening before, okay? But the thing is, when I switch, it's not changing modes. See? It's just simply not. So we have to go down to system setup, disconnect RF, go down to channel assign. We have to disassociate aux2 from that choice, okay? So now gear is not inhibited. We need gear attached to switch B. And we need aux2 to call that flight mode out. I wonder if we can do that. Huh. Do you see what I just did? Gear and flight mode.
Okay.
That might work. Hold position 1. Okay, this I've seen before, and you want to know what that is? That reminds me of the way the 330S and the 230S came up. This warning's backward. Because watch, I'm in normal, my throttle holds on. It would have warned us if the, okay, so now we're definitely in the right mode. So throttle hold is on. Our warning is backwards. So I'm gonna go back to warnings, and I think it's under, ooh, where is that? Telemetry, audio events, where is that? System setup probably. Disconnect RF. Warnings. Okay, watch this. You want the warning when it's off, not when it's on. And definitely warnings when you're in 1 or 2. That is very important. But guess what? Now we've got it working. Okay, throttle cut's on. Good, that's working. Throttle cut's off. Spool up. Everything's working as expected. Throttle cut's on. You can't even see it go into normal mode. Or excuse me, when you're in hold. It doesn't matter, okay? So, when I go into system setup, we should not get the warning when we come back out. We didn't, good. Now, watch this. Safety first, guys, test your system. Okay, I'm in system setup. I'm in normal mode. I don't want it to spool up. I don't have my throttle cut on. There it is, guys. Now my hold's on. That's the warning I want. Now, if I exited system setup and I was in, my throttle cut is on, throttle hold is on. If I was in stunt 1, it would warn me. If I was in stunt 2, it would warn me and it would prevent me from exiting the menu before I cut my hands off. Okay, great. That's always comforting. All right, so that's very good. Also, let's talk about, we gotta do our timer. Let's just set up a timer. I don't wanna set up a timer, but I probably need to. I'm gonna set a very conservative 4 minutes. Anything over 25% and it's not a 1 out because this is a Heli, okay? So it's different. I want a tone, no. I want a voice at 1 minute and at 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice. At expiration, I want tone and vibrate with a tone every minute thereafter. But remember, that's only when your throttle's over 25%, which means virtually all the time when you're flying a Heli because you don't generally fly below 25%. And also, you might want the 1 out if you're doing strictly 3D flying because there will be times when your stick goes below 25, but you're still spooled up to 75. That being said, if you're in flight mode 1 or 2, meaning stunt 1 or stunt 2, you will be over the 25% threshold by nature of your setting, which is 75%, regardless of your stick position, which is then just controlling the pitch. Mm-hmm. You can also have a throttle curve if you want, but nobody does that in helicopters that I know of, and I don't know much. All right, so that was very productive. Okay, so now we're connecting. Okay, let's go into safe.
Now you gotta go to
stability. No, I gotta see what setting is this on. Okay, so I think I can shut that off now. See, it's on. I want that off. And I want it off. It's not switching the modes. Dang it. Because that word would change. It's giving us the audio event, but it's not actually changing. So what I need to do is I need to go to setup and I need to remake my association. So flight mode channel. Ugh. It is gear, but I can't get it to do it.
No, but remember you just said it aux 2. You changed it to F mode.
Oh, okay. Good point, camera crew. Says hold. Yeah, buddy. Okay, cool. So now you can make your changes to your gains in all 3 settings, okay?
Okay.
And you can do that for pitch and you can do that for roll. So in hold, that's what you want. Okay, holds back on, walking out. Agility is, oh geez, I forget. There's so many different variables that are hard to remember in these things. And I apologize, guys, for not being better with this, but we're getting there. You got to start somewhere. Stability, this is like auto leveling. I want it on in hold, and I want it on in normal, but I want it off in flight mode 1 and off in flight mode 2. Now, why do we want that? Because if I have an emergency, I want to be able to put throttle hold on and safe will auto level the helicopter, even though it will be simultaneously putting it to no spinny mode. And it will auto gyro down to ground if I did it right. I think I did. Okay, now also, coming back around, you can change the gains and the envelope. The envelope is the allowance of clearance, for movement and stuff. And the gain is the amount of amplitude that it's gonna attempt to auto level, okay? Attitude trim. I forget what the attitude trim is, but they don't talk about it in the manual, so I'm just gonna like leave it alone for now. All right, guys, we did a lot. Now I'm gonna show you the difference between, oh, I can't even show you because I have, you could also do a bailout mode too, where you're gonna tighten the window. You're gonna go from like gyro 75 to gyro 90, and you're gonna go from gain 50 to gain 75, and it's just gonna lock that thing level. And that's where people will use this button. I don't like that. I just wanna know, how do I get it so it goes level? And I wanna make sure that eyes closed, fingers on the sticks, which, why are you closing your eyes, first of all?
Don't do that.
You can get it to auto level quickly, because if you're a crappy 3D pilot and you do some stupid maneuver and you get sideways, you don't want to end up in a pile of rubble, because it's going to take forever to fix this thing. Okay, as convoluted as that last 2 hours of your lives have been, just imagine if you were trying to fake it until you make it, like me. It'd be bad.
Hopefully you had a good beverage while you were watching.
Yeah. So now at this point, if you look over here, we can talk about some of this stuff. So gain adjustments. So the forward programming tips, adjust gains per flight mode by setting the FM channel input config. Okay. After the tail gains are fairly close, use the transmitter gain function to adjust the gain for each flight mode. So the default's 50, 50, default 7, default 100, default 80. And this page, let's just make it so they can pause it. If you want to know more about the gains, read this page. Okay, you've had time to pause. Okay, so then this is where they talk about some different things. Tail rotor gain adjustment, default 95, tail rotor D gain adjustment. I have no idea what all this crap is. And this is where they talk about calibrating it, which we already did that, okay? And then this talks about different troubleshooting techniques. Okay, so really the manual's big, but it's like English is this much of it.
Yeah.
So we went through that entire manual. I don't want to say it was a terrible manual, but it was pretty crappy. There are so many things that they didn't talk about that I don't know good enough to be able to feel 100% confident that this killing machine is ready to fly. That's what our son calls them.
No, death machine.
Death machine, there you go.
Which does not instill confidence over here.
And by the way, if you want to buy one, buy it from the links in the video description below.
If you want your own death machine.
So if you want your own death machine, just buy one from the links below. All joking aside, guys, this helicopter is probably ready to fly, okay? There's gonna be things that I wanna have better, and there's gonna be things that I wanna have a lot better. One thing that might be nice, let's see if we can figure this out. Let's see if we can put a master gain on here somehow. So forward programming.
I never saw anything
System
like that.
setup, calibrate sensor, no. Tail rotor. Start, stop, hold, proportional. This is the degrees per second. So this is in hold. Okay, so in normal mode, it's gonna be like this. Stunt one, it's gonna be like this.
Stunt 2, Stunt 1, normal mode, Stunt
So they're all the same. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way for me to make this proportional. No, it's just a scrolly value. That's definitely just a scrolly value. And it's the same thing for all these. They're all different values, and they're all values that are stored. I can't attach that to like my slider. And if you can, I don't know how to do it. I think at this point, it's just too much for a pilot to handle at the first time. So really at this point, I'm to the point where I just want to kind of get it in the air. I want to get the thing hovering. I want to see if I can hover it in normal mode. I want to get a few mistakes high, being able to go from, throttle hold is on. I want to go from flight mode 1, which would be stunt 1, to stunt 2, and just maintain a hover. Go a couple of feet forward, roll it a little, yaw a little, do all those things that you like to do, and then I want to be able to land it. At which point then I can decide, do I really need to investigate further on those agility values?
Okay.
Because I think at this point we have beat the dead horse and we're now beating it more by going in more depth, because the ambiguity that we started with is the ambiguity that we still have here, and it's just kind of compounding. But we have the basic principal functions down, and that's very important to me. Now, the other thing is, it would be really nice to be able to turn auto leveling on with the G switch, with the gear switch.
With the A switch,
No. Well, oh yes, with the A switch.
which would be gear.
I don't want to complicate it anymore than we already have.
Because it's on B right now. Your flight modes are on B.
The other thing is gyro currently is set to channel gear. We could set gyro to this, but I don't want to undermine what we've already done in forward programming. So I think for now, we'll go with what we got. The flight time of 4 minutes is probably not a terrible starting point, because if we're using a 2600 milliamp power pack, then we're going to be pushing it. The other thing is I could just be conservative and fly with something that's 3300 milliamp hours and, you know, just don't go nuts. Don't do any heavy 3D.
Which you're not going to do.
I'm not going to do heavy 3D. Are you
anyway.
kidding me? I'm going to make sure I'd be lucky to get it to the ground.
Yeah.
So at this point, guys, if you are into this heli and you want to help support us and give us a big pat on the back for going through this ridiculous process, then the best thing you can do to help us is basically buy these things from the links. I'm going to unplug this thing because it's so annoying to listen to those digital noises.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, watch what happens when I tip it over. It's trying to auto level. It will always try to auto level, okay? I can hear myself think. The digital noise is very palpable and annoying. I'm sure you guys can hear it. And I'm sure if you've been watching this video, you're like, good Lord, Brian, that looks like a lot of work. Well, for me, it is. Also, at the same time, you have to admit, as complex as this thing is, I didn't have to get out a computer. I didn't have to get out like 4 manuals. I had 1 manual. I did admittedly stop while we were waiting and recharging our batteries. I rewatched some of the sections of the Horizon produced video. Good job, Tom. I just wish instead of 8 parts or 9 parts, it just would have been like one video that was like, go in this order. Boom, 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 boom. And honestly, I gotta say, I long for the days when I have a bind and fly so I can play with it, because it's just so much easier. And truthfully, kits for us are just not something that we generally do. So this M4, the reason we did this M4 is because we like Buddy, we want to work with them, and also I like the M4. It is one of the most capable. All the M's that we've had have been extremely capable. I think we did an M1 and M2. Did we do an M3? I don't think there was an M3.
Mm-mm. Did we even do the 2?
Yeah, we did. We did. It was little. It used to sit over there. It's one of the most capable, like all metal. It's beautiful, gorgeous. But also way out of my league for skill. Because, you know, the things you can do with these helicopters really designate whether or not they're a good value. So I would suggest that if you're considering this as a non-3D helicopter, a lot of the stuff that we're setting up may or may not actually even come to fruition. It may not be a big issue. You can probably fly this thing around the yard with our setup and be just fine. But if you start getting into the high 3D, you know, doing TikToks and flipping this thing over and flying it around tail first and like it's on fire, then, you know, you want to get those settings right, those agility and those stabilizer settings right. But you're not going to be flying with auto leveling. You're going to be flying without auto leveling and with stabilization. Also, I'm a little bit concerned about the tail rotor. I feel like we have the settings correct but I know that some of these helicopters have a certain pitch setting that are built in to help counter the normal torque effect. So I hope we don't start and have the stabilizer holding the tail when we could just have had a mechanical adjustment so that like the neutral speed is always going to be there. That being said, the flight controller will keep up with it and it will do a good job. It's just going to take processing power to do that, and I don't want to waste it. High quality servos, high quality ESC, high quality mechanisms, high quality assembly, relatively easy build, complicated radio setup. Guys, this thing is right at the top of my skills, and my skills are limited, just like everybody. So if we left you hanging on some questions, I apologize in advance. The NX10 has been relatively good. We have a few disconnects that we ran into while we're doing this, and that's annoying. But it's also not during flight. So forward programming is just when you're in here navigating these serial setup menus. And once they're set, you don't have to worry about it, and it just executes in real world. So the real world application is really where you start taking and you start running this thing through its paces, okay? Now also, if you haven't already done it at this point, you'll want to double check that all your wires are clear and you aren't anywhere near the belt or any of the moving parts, the idlers, none of that stuff. The antennas are clear of all the moving parts, because this is a great time to check it. Give it one more once over. We already did our pre-flight checks before we even did this test. And also, I want to make sure that all this stuff is secured so that we don't have them popping out. Remember, we had the one wire after yanking it, it broke off and I had to rebuild the end. That was my fault, but it still probably shouldn't have happened. It was annoying. Okay, so complaints about this model. It's complicated to build, and I really just think most people that are going to be putting this together are going to be okay doing it, because they're going to be heli aficionados, okay? But even if you're a heli aficionado, I want to be able to buy this built. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be built and have a flight controller in it. And also that does add significant cost to the shipping, but really this box is not that big. If all that was disconnected was the tail boom and it was shipped just like every other helicopter we've gotten in recent past, I think you could get away with it. And there's really no excuse for not offering it as a true plug and fly. So that's complaint number one. Complaint number two, you know, that's the number one. The same thing. I don't want to build it. Okay. That's a personal preference. You guys might not be in that court. And some of you guys are going to complain in the comments like, oh, quit complaining. It's a hobby. Well, you know what? I don't want to spend 8 hours doing this. Okay. Some of you guys love spending 8 hours doing this. It's not my cup of tea. Okay. To all their own, right? So don't give me trouble about it in the comments. I don't want to hear it. We're just busy. We love doing these models, but I don't love the aspect of putting this crap together. When it's this high consequence, I just like it to be built by the factory. Okay. I don't like to be required to, you know, Loctite every single bolt. I went through 2 tubes of Loctite. I don't like that. I want the factory to do it where they've got somebody who's very good at it and they do it all day long and they do a great job. And they have one mistake per 10,000 sequences, where I made like 4 mistakes per 10, okay? So that's why. That being said, in a couple of years, maybe I'll be a little bit more comfortable with this and I'll be a little bit less apprehensive about the build, okay? And this is coming from me. I've been doing this for a lot of years, even before the YouTube, putting together stuff like this. But mostly during those years, those 8.5 years or so that we've been doing this YouTube channel. So we have a lot of experience. I build a lot of mechanical stuff for work. I do a lot of complicated stuff at work. I do know my way around electronics really well. But the thing is, it doesn't always come through in the videos, especially when we're very lost. So those are basically all of my complaints in one pile. I don't have anything bad to say about this model. It is really nice. It's well done. It was not that hard to build. I just didn't want to do it. And also I got to say that the instructions could have been a lot worse. They were not that bad. There was one step that I got confused on, and it was here. Everything else was pretty much straightforward, except for which direction the wires come out on this servo. On these ones, it didn't matter. It was no big deal.
Yep.
They just never actually drew that. And so if you take a look at our time lapse, you'll see what I'm talking about. Also, complaint, but it's just on my own, is that I didn't think to get the right size battery for this. I didn't think I needed to. I assumed that one of my plethora of 6S batteries would fit it. I was a little disappointed to see it was 2600. This is kind of a weird size. It's kind of like bigger than most drones use, and it's a lot smaller than most planes use. So we're in that like middle heli range. So if you're a heli guy, it shouldn't be a problem for you. You're used to using 2600 6Ss. In closing, also legitimate complaint, why the heck are we using XT60s on a helicopter with this much current and 6S? Yes, I'm sure it's fine. I'm not really worried about it myself. But the thing is, it seems to me like, yeah, we probably should be getting up into the, the EC5 or bigger. And to be honest, I hate EC5s, admittedly, but they are going to carry a little bit more current than an XT60 in normal circumstances. So if you're doing heavy 3D, I'm concerned you might actually melt a connector. That being said, you're talking 45C at 6S. That is, you've got a lot of potential there, and C ratings are a bunch of BS most of the time anyway. So, complaints on the NX10. There's a lot of steps on this that I think could be refined. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the steps that are there. So just from a reviewer standpoint, from the influencer side of things, if you can tolerate going through this mess, then you are a special type of buyer, okay? And I say that, not to poke fun at anybody. I'm saying, like, seriously, you have to really want this to do it. And that's okay. Hey, I got them even. Look at this. I always want these things vertical because I sit it over there and it's beautiful and I love looking at it. But then it's vertical, and every other time you turn it, it's going to be at some different spot. So I found the sweet spot. It's right there. It's not even the same. Dang it, I screwed it up. Like you said, don't touch it. Okay, so very, very positive notes about this heli. It looks extremely strong. It's still not going to be strong enough to stand up to a crash. It looks extremely sweet. It's still not going to stand up to a crash. It is very easy to put this on and off, although it should be easier given that it's not really that hard to actually slide it together. I still have trouble every time I do it. I love that it's only got the 2 points. That's really nice. I still long for the days when they start giving us, like some of the manufacturers, with like a break open front for easy battery changes. Beautiful blades, absolutely gorgeous. Not uncommon at this echelon of build, but still beautiful. I love it. Also, in terms of mechanisms, I felt like they were relatively easy to build. That's a good thing. I felt like this was relatively easy to get into spec. I don't like the turnbuckle design. I thought that was chintzy at best. And I couldn't believe that OMP was using that design, because I have seen almost nut zerts inside of some of these ball joints. And I feel like this just feels not good enough. That's my only complaint on this whole kit, is that these ones were fine. They were big enough that you had room to get in there. But I felt like these ones, just like you didn't have enough positive reinforcement that you had gotten purchase on those threads, especially given that there's one that's threaded correctly and one that's threaded reverse, or normal in reverse. So that's one genuine complaint. I don't know that it's a correct complaint, but it is a complaint. Also, I felt like this would have been, it looks cool in this stance, but it makes it incredibly hard to set up when it's not level, okay? So even though the landing skids are at that cool angle for cool effect, it just makes it really hard. So if you're gonna do a cool effect like that, maybe give us a jig or something that we can throw under there. Something that maybe breaks out of the foam so we can just jam it under there as a wedge to get it level. And you guys in the heli world can correct me. There may already be something that's available. Also, I didn't like having to use this, but it's not really a big deal. I'm glad I know how to use it now. And that's good. We learned a lot in this build, mostly that we don't want to do it very often. And secondly, one of the biggest issues we run into when we do these long builds is just from an aspect of filming. It's hard on the family to film because the kids got to get out of here. We got 4 kids downstairs. And so if you want to help support them, buy stuff from the links. Seriously, that's how you can help. But in terms of the complexity of setup, I just feel like there's a lot of complexity that doesn't necessarily yield a lot of payback. And I feel like it's really limits the type of market that you're going to sell this to. Again, that's going to sound really bad to the hardcore heli guys because you're going to be like, whatever, I need all 6 measurement adjustments for all 7 axes and 14 modes. Okay, fine. But at the same time, you know, can you offer just the idiot version? That'd be really nice. Mm-hmm. So other than that, I really like the fact that it was easy to install physically. Mm-hmm. I like that it was relatively easy to set up. I don't like that I feel uncomfortable still that I didn't get it all. And I went through the entire manual. I don't ever go through the entire manual, ever. And I watched like multiple videos. So hopefully my video becomes the video that some people will go and say, oh yeah, I'm lost, I need help. But I kind of doubt it because I didn't feel like we knew our way through this very good. And I'd like to be more confident when we're done with a project like this. Now, granted, when this ends up in a pile of rubble, we'll be either done with it or when it flies victoriously, we'll be done with it. And so either way, we're close to the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, but I want to see this thing fly well. And it's big, and that means I'll be able to see it. So if you guys are thinking, hey, I want to go with something smaller than that, congratulations, there's easier options if you're doing that. But if you're like me and you're getting older and you can't see crap, then you need a bigger heli. This is going to do it for you. But just remember, bigger helis come with higher consequences, higher cost, and harder setup, which we're learning and we're proving. So did I miss anything? So thanks, OMP, for sending us this. I can't believe you want a layman like me to do this thing, but we're really glad to be doing it for you. And hopefully we'll help to reach some of your other, you know, like more normal audience, people that aren't going to be hardcore 3D pilots. And we'll say, yes, you can do it. And yes, we realized after having done it that we pretty much got it right. Or I crashed mine in Fireball and we can say, yeah, we missed that thing. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Did you give me a helmet?
Yeah, we can wear helmets. I'll let you wear my PPG helmet.
Okay.
So, all right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. I think the next video on this is going to be the flight. So if you're seeing this and you've already watched through it, and then the flight should already be released. Hopefully it wasn't one of those 30-second, you know, flights that ended miserably, but I kind of doubt it. I think this is going to be a great flying helicopter. I am 60% confident we're going to have good success. And 70%, it's not going to be us running. 85% we're not going to be running. 75% we're going to be able to get it flying reasonably well on the first maiden flight, okay? And by the way, a test flight, a maiden flight, yeah, you guys can decide what you want to call it. But what we do on Brian Phillips RC is we build it, we fly it. Sometimes we call it like the first maiden, second maiden, third maiden. You guys, sometimes people complain about that. Like, I understand what a maiden flight is. It's the first one. But the thing is, do you call a test flight a maiden flight, or do you call that a test flight? Because helicopters expressly have test flights. You're supposed to do test flights on all your planes, which is BS. Nobody does that except for us. And then we just call them like multiple maidens.
Yes.
So anyway, all right, guys, hopefully that answers all your questions that you didn't even know you had. I can't wait to see it just about as much as you. And if you haven't seen it, just check out the video. Should have published it like a minute before this one came out.
Or it might be at the beginning of this one.
No.
No?
No, they'll be separate.
Okay.
They'll be separate like the airplanes.
Okay.
So, and also we have playlists, guys. If you want to find some more about this, just check the playlist on this. Throughout the history of this heli, we'll have potentially more second thoughts videos and things like that. After we get our maidens done, we kind of, you know, put it through the ringer. Maybe later on we get another body kit or something like that. We'll put it on there. We'll fly it for you. That'll be called what we call second thoughts. So if you're new to the channel and you're here because of heli stuff, you're like, geez, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, I agree. But at the same time, admittedly, this is not my normal cup of tea. I'm more fixed wing than I am heli. And I'm more fixed wing than I am even small helis. But we do helis on the channel, and we usually do ready to fly helis and bind to fly helis. That's usually what we do. But I am actually trying to push myself here. I want to go bigger, and I want to get more big scale helicopters. So that's what I'm working toward. In case you guys were wondering, I always have a game plan. I always have a target. And you guys can too. So if you haven't already started flying, you need to start flying. You're gonna love it. Don't start with this. This is not a beginner toy. It is not a beginner. This is definitely not a toy. This is hobby grade. It's expensive. You're gonna drop a lot of money on this. And so if you do buy it, make sure you know what you're doing. If you want something cheaper, there are other choices. Just go to our playlist, scroll down, get something that looks smaller. You can find something. There's lots of great helicopters you can get started with zero experience. And I'm not exaggerating. You can actually do them with zero experience. And it's really fun. You'll get that fix and you can say, you know what, that's not for me. Or yes, that's for me. Next thing you know, you'll be doing one of these. So you're at the right place. Brian Phillips RC is here for you. And Megan, the camera crew, my wife of many years, is here to help support by making awesome cinematography out of my terrible efforts.
We'll see.
Yes, we will. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. So much more from Brian Phillips RC.